Chapter 166. Time flew by. 100 years later, Meng Ji and Bing Fu's names resounded throughout the entire Holy Glacial Lands. They both reached the Return to Void stage and became the youngest Holy Palace leaders in the Holy Glacial Lands. Meng Ji also had her wish fulfilled and became a candidate for the position of High Priestess. On this day, she arrived at the Green Lotus Holy Palace with an elated expression and relayed the news to Bing Fu. Toy, I'm now a candidate for the position of High Priestess. I'm one step closer to my dream of doing whatever I want. Meng Ji had already become a lithe and graceful woman, and the cold expression on her face melted away at the sight of that familiar figure, giving her the appearance of a young girl. Bing Fu was still as delicate as ever, but his aura had become even more vast and profound. After seeing the woman in front of him, he stretched out his hand and flicked the woman's smooth and white forehead. He smiled and said, "Don't be too happy too early. Aren't there 3 candidates? If you don't get chosen, don't come running here crying." Meng Ji wrinkled her nose with an annoyed expression. "Oi, is this how you talk to your master? Hurry up and praise me." Bing Fu, master, is truly overflowing with talent, a peerless genius, a peerless beauty. A faint smile appeared on Meng Ji's face as she stared at the man before her. Her golden eyes, which had lost their solemn aura, were now filled with a captivating light. "One day, I will ascend to the position of the High Priest, and then I will openly let you appear in front of the world as a man." Before she could even realize her dream, a massive war erupted across the entire Holy Glacial Lands. The Snow Maidens had no choice but to expand into the Kingdom of the 9 States. The 50,000 heavenly soldiers of the Celestial Court and the 50,000 cultivators of the 10,000 Spirits Immortal Sect defended the Wind Plain State against the invasion of the Snow Maidens. This war caused the sky to change color and the earth to sink. Bing Fu encountered an extremely fearsome opponent, the peak leader of the 10,000 Spirits Immortal Sect's Heavenly Dawn Peak, Chen Wanghao. Chen Wanghao wielded the Demon Sealing Pagoda, and wind and clouds surged as he unleashed countless sealing spell techniques imbued with peerless divine might. Bing Fu battled with him for an entire day and night, but there was still no clear victor. The more Chen Wanghao battled, the more peculiar his expression became. After sending Bing Fu flying with the demon-suppressing pagoda, he finally couldn't help but ask, "Son?" Bing Fu gripped the celestial wolf-slaying sword and was just about to continue attacking when he was startled by these words. Then, he flew into a rage. "Tui, you stinking old Taoist, don't try to take advantage of me." Boom, boom, boom. The two of them fought again. 2 hours passed, and Chen Wanghao spoke again. "There's no mistake. Although your appearance has changed a lot, and you've become more delicate, and your breasts are bulging, this divine soul aura that is connected to your bloodline cannot be faked. Son, I am your father. I'm your father." Bing Fu roared as a celestial wolf-slaying sword glowed with a purple light, condensing into thousands of wolves that pounced toward Chen Wanghao. Boundless golden light erupted from the demon's sealing tower, crushing over 1,000 wolves into nothingness. Chen Wanghao charged toward Bing Fu, slicing open his palm. Blood sprayed out, and countless mysterious runes appeared on his palm. "Is your memory sealed? Then let my blood essence awaken your memories." Die! Bing Fu stabbed his celestial wolf-slaying sword toward Chen Wanghao. To his surprise, Chen Wanghao made no attempt to dodge. The sword pierced through Chen Wanghao's body, and at this moment his blood-stained palm also slammed toward Bing Fu's head. Boom! Terrifying shock waves proliferated outward. Bing Fu's eyes widened as a mysterious power connected to his bloodline broke through his mind. Countless memories began to surface in his mind, and he felt as if his head were about to explode. Bing Fu half knelt to the ground as he screamed. Right at this moment, countless gigantic ice dragons began to pounce toward Chen Wanghao. "How dare you hurt Bing Fu? I'm going to kill you." Meng Ji wore a phoenix coronet on her head, and her peerlessly beautiful face was filled with rage. Her golden eyes were imbued with boundless might, and they enshrouded the entire sky, making all beings bow before her. At this moment, she was the most powerful monarch in this world. The demon's ceiling tower opened up an enchantment barrier that spanned over 10,000 feet to keep the ice dragons at bay. Each and every collision caused the earth to cave in and tremble violently. However, Chun Wanghao gritted his teeth as he waited for his son to awaken. I'm Qin Qinghang. Moments later, Bing Fu clutched his head as he murmured to himself. Chun Wanghao's body trembled with joy. That's right. Your name is Chun Qinghang. My son is finally back. No, it should be my daughter now. But that's all right. You can be called Chun Qingqing from now on. Chun Wanghao came to his senses and immediately added, Bing Fu, father, I'm a man, my breasts are fake. Chun Qinghang heaved a faint sigh. Chun Wanghao stared blankly at Chun Qinghang with joy and excitement in his eyes. You're finally calling me father again. It's been a long time since I've heard you call me that. Bing Fu, what did you just say? Mengji stared blankly at the man, kneeling on the ground with incredulity etched on her face. It was as if an important pillar of support had collapsed, and her body began to tremble uncontrollably. This fact was placed in front of her, and she was unable to accept it. Right at this moment, a huge golden palm descended from the sky, covering an area of 30,000 feet in radius. Terrifying vital energy surged like a vast ocean, and the entire sky was transformed into a dazzling golden color. The space around the palm was sealed, and no one was able to evade it. Die, demonic woman! A voice exploded like thunder. Boom! The ice and frost dragon of several thousand feet in length was pulverized by the power of the palm, and Meng Ji was also crushed into the ground. The ground began to crack open, and everything was reduced to dust by the palm. It's the Grand Elder, Lord Tianwu. That demonic woman is dead for sure. Chun Wanghao heaved a sigh of relief with a smile on his face. Mengji, Chun Qinghang's heart trembled as he stared at the woman who had been crushed into the ground. Her silver hair was stained with blood, and her body was riddled with wounds as she gritted her teeth and crawled out from the massive palm. She raised her head with difficulty, and she was greeted by the sight of a rain of golden swords raining down from the sky. Each of the golden swords was comparable to a full force attack from a return to Void Stage mighty figure. They fell like rain, and they were powerful enough to obliterate everything in this world. However, right at this moment, a man in a blue robe appeared in front of her and raised his heavenly wolf-slaying sword. Son, have you gone insane? Chun Wanghao's enraged roar sounded in the distance. Chun Wanghao's roar was instantly drowned out by the violent explosions. A massive, inky black crater was blasted into the ground by the countless swords. After the dust settled, Chun Qinghang was bathed in blood, and he slowly fell backward into Meng Ji's arms. Meng Ji held onto Chun Qinghang with trembling hands as tears flowed from her eyes. Why did you do this for me? Blood trickled down the corners of Chun Qinghang's lips, but a warm smile appeared on his face as he gently wiped away the tears from her face. I don't know. Perhaps it's the instinct of a toy to protect its master. In the sky, Lord Tianwu harumphed coldly and was just about to kill these two demonic women again. However, Chun Wanghao suddenly appeared in front of Chun Qinghang. Please stop, Elder. He's Chun Qinghang, my son. He was bewitched by these demonic women when he lost his memories, and that's why he did such a stupid thing. Can you spare his life? He's Chun Qinghang. Lord Tianwu's expression changed slightly upon hearing this. He looked at the fallen holy palace leader, who was bathed in blood, and after a brief moment of thought, he was able to roughly guess what had happened. Chun Qinghang was extremely talented, so it wouldn't be a bad thing if he could return to the right path and return to the sect. Lord Tianwu thought for a moment before continuing. I can spare him from the death penalty, but it's a fact that he became the holy palace leader and massacred the disciples of our sect. Chun Wanghao, I order you to bring him back to the sect and seal him in the devil's sealing tower for 1,000 years to atone for his crimes. Also, use the Devil Sealing Tower to erase all of his memories regarding the holy glacial lands. Mengji faltered slightly upon hearing Lord Tianwu's words before crushing a mirror in her hand. She stared at Chun Qinghang with deep emotion before gently kissing him on the lips. Chun Qinghang's eyes widened in shock. Then he felt a warm and soft sensation on his lips. "How dare you, demonic woman! Release my son at once." Chen Wanghao roared in rage. If it were some other woman kissing his son, he would accept her as his daughter-in-law. But this woman was the Snow Maiden who had a vendetta against the 10,000 Spirits immortal sect. How could he tolerate this? Lord Tianwu flicked a finger at Meng Ji, and a golden sword projection tore through the air, instantly reaching her. Whoosh! The sword projection pierced through Meng Ji's body, but didn't harm her in the slightest. Has the great empress made a move? Lord Tianwu looked up into the sky with furrowed brows. Meng Ji's body began to become insubstantial. She looked at Chun Qinghang with longing in her eyes as she spoke in a gentle voice. "Toy, wait for me. I'll definitely come to find you. No one can take my toy away from me. No one." Tears streamed down Chun Qinghang's face as he shook his head with difficulty. "Don't come, just let it end like this. Don't come." Chapter 167. Chun Qinghang was sucked into the demon's sealing tower, and all of his memories regarding the holy glacial lands and Meng Ji were slowly stripped away. There was nothing within the tower other than a vast expanse of gray. There was nothing he could do except fall into a deep slumber. After a good night's sleep, he would wake up as the real Chun Qinghang. Not Bing Fu, not Meng Ji's toy. He would live on as the pride of the 10,000 Spirits immortal sect. After what seemed like an eternity, he heard a violent explosion, and his consciousness began to slowly return. Chun Qinghang woke up and stood up from a pile of shattered white crystals. He then saw the heavenly dawn peak, which had been ravaged by the wind and snow. He saw countless corpses lying on the ground, and he saw many people who were still alive looking at him. He looked up into the sky and finally came to his senses as a wry smile appeared on his face. So that's how it is. Soon, an elder of the 10,000 Spirits immortal sect stepped forward and yelled at him. "Are you Chun Qinghang or Bing Fu?" Chun Qinghang. Bing Fu. The man's memories slowly surfaced in his mind. The past was so clear. He faltered before his eyes widened as he looked at the elders of the 10,000 Spirits immortal sect. "What are you doing? What happened to wiping away all of my memories regarding the holy glacial lands? Why do I remember everything so clearly now?" All the elders of the 10,000 Spirits immortal sect. At this moment, a boundless river of ice suddenly appeared in the sky, surrounding the three peak leaders. An exquisitely beautiful silver-haired woman descended from the sky before flashing toward Chun Qinghang and hugging him tightly. She was the current high priestess of the holy glacial lands, Meng Ji. "Toy, I'm here to take you back. Come with me, okay?" The high priestess, who had just stood proudly in the sky and battled 3 return-to-void stage mighty figures on her own, was now clinging tightly to Chun Qinghang's clothes with both excitement and uneasiness. Chun Qinghang came to his senses and pushed Meng Ji away. "No, my father is still here. I promised him that I wouldn't leave the 10,000 Spirits immortal sect." "Who said your father was here?" "I've captured him and brought him to the Snow God Palace." Meng Ji's golden eyes were dodging in Lin's gaze as she spoke apologetically. "Huh?" Chun Qinghang's eyes widened again. I wanted to use your father in exchange for you, but the 10,000 Spirits immortal sect didn't agree, so I've been keeping your father captive this entire time." Meng Ji's voice became weaker and weaker, like a little girl who had done something wrong. The corner of Chun Qinghang's mouth twitched. If his memories had been wiped, he would have attacked the high priest without hesitation. "But now, fine," Chun Qinghang said solemnly. "I agree to go back with you. But you have to promise me that you'll release my father when we return to the Ice Saint region. Of course, aside from the Great Empress, I have the final say in the holy glacial realm." A sweet smile appeared on Meng Ji's face as she stared at the man before her. just like she had done hundreds of years ago. Rumble. In the sky above, the three peak lords broke through the glacial river, and their expressions began to fluctuate as they caught sight of Chun Ching Heng and Meng Ji. Ching Heng, don't persist in going about things the wrong way. You have to know that if you make the wrong choice again, the 10,000 Spirits immortal sect will never tolerate you again. The old woman of the heavenly dawn peak gripped her cane tightly as she spoke in a solemn voice. In the 10,000 Spirits immortal sect, the person she admired the most was Chun Ching Heng, and he was also the person she felt the most heartache for. Chun Ching Heng looked up at the old woman with a warm smile. Granny Xiao, thank you for taking care of me this entire time, but this is my only choice this time. Let's go. He turned to Meng Ji. Meng Ji nodded and summoned back the 9 ice dragons that were battling the formation spirit. She then charged out of the spell formation with Chun Ching Heng in tow and fled into the distance. 2 returned to Void Stage, Holy Palace leaders, and a few dozen powerful snow maidens trailed closely behind them. The peak lords and elders didn't give chase. Without the protection of the spell formation, they were even less of a match for Meng Ji. In this battle, they were the ones who had lost. The sun had already sunk below the horizon, and countless stars began to appear in the sky. The Heavenly Dawn Peak had been completely ravaged by this battle. There were craters and cracks all over the place, and the ghastly cracks made it look as if it were on the verge of collapse. If it weren't for the return to Void Stage Peak Lords purposely drawing the battle into the air, the Heavenly Dawn Peak would most likely have been destroyed. And Lin had experienced this thrilling battle as a passerby, and he felt as if he were going to die at any moment. Thankfully, the High Priestess was only here to kidnap him and not to fight to the death. Otherwise, who knew what would have happened? After the battle, some of the sect disciples were responsible for cleaning up the aftermath of the battle on the Heavenly Dawn Peak. And Lin was responsible for taking Xianyuan Cheng and Tang Xiyuan to the sect's treatment center. Both of them had sustained severe injuries, and they needed to be treated using a spell formation. And Lin heaved a light sigh of relief upon seeing them enter the spell formation before leaving the treatment center. He then met up with Xiao Chou and Dabai. Thankfully, neither of them had suffered any mishaps. Dabai had overslept, so he didn't know about the earth-shattering battle that had just taken place. Xiao Chou hadn't received an order from Enlin, so he didn't attack on his own. After making sure that his beast pets were fine, Enlin began to wander around again. Before he knew it, he had returned to the Heavenly Dawn Peak. He had been sightseeing this afternoon, and he had praised the Heavenly Dawn Peak for being the most beautiful of the 5 main peaks. Who would have thought that in less than half a day, this place would be reduced to rubble and scorched earth, becoming the ugliest of the 5 main peaks? He lay on a protruding boulder and looked up at the twinkling stars in the sky, his thoughts drifting away. Why did the silver-haired man tell him about the self-detonation, and why Chun Ching Hong's memory hadn't been erased? These were things that he had no way of knowing. The sudden battle had resulted in the deaths of many sect disciples and even a few elders. The prodigy of the younger generation, Zhang Yin, whom he had just met, had also been reduced to dust by that terrifying self-detonation. It had to be said, this was the cruelty of battles in the cultivation world. Who knew when a mighty figure would suddenly appear and kill him with a single slap? Sigh, I'm already at the spirit nurturing stage, but why do I feel like I'm still too weak? And Lin sighed to himself. He felt like he was like Detective Conan. Wherever he went, something would happen, and many of them would be fatal. He was clearly bullying a cultivator of the Tao body stage, but the enemies he encountered were all King mighty figures of the soul formation stage and returned to void stage. Thinking of this, he could not help but sigh faintly. For some reason, his gaze began to focus on that unblinking star. This star was round, and its light was extremely gentle. It was like a small moon, and it hung motionlessly in the sky. This star is so special. It's probably not a fake star, and Lin complained. Chapter 168. And Lin stared at the star for a full 10 minutes, and he was getting a little sleepy in the end. After today's battle, he was physically and mentally exhausted. Now that he could finally relax, he was overcome by drowsiness. With this in mind, he flew back on his brick to rest. The moon set and the sun rose. Soon, a new day arrived. He opened his bleary eyes and was greeted by the sight of Xiao Chow's large face. The sight of Xiao Chow was extremely refreshing. He didn't even need to wash his face before he instantly woke up. "Why are you staring at me so early in the morning?" And Lin jumped up in shock. Xiao Chow scratched his fur. "Dabai just told me that he's going to visit a brothel today. He told me to let you know when you woke up." "Visit a brothel?" And Lin's eyes widened. "A dog's brothel or a human's?" Xiao Chow's face convulsed. "Big brother have you ever seen a dog's brothel?" And Lin instantly became excited upon hearing this. Sure enough, there was something wrong with Dabai's sexual orientation. Why would he be interested in human beauties? This wasn't the animal world at all. Take Lin, for example. Even if a female dog was as beautiful as a flower, he wouldn't be interested in it. At most, he would only praise the dog for being beautiful. However, Dabai was going to visit a human's brothel? What kind of attitude was that? "No, I have to see what Dabai is up to." And Lin stood up with a serious expression. As the master, he felt the need to correct his beast pet's sexual orientation. Otherwise, if Dabai brought a female human cultivator back to the mythological beast sect and told by Xian that she was his wife, then as the master, Lin would definitely be eaten by Xian. And Lin asked in a grave voice, "Do you know where Dabai is visiting the brothel?" Xiao Chow shook his head. "It's in the nearby Shihua Prefecture. I don't know where exactly it is." "All right, wait for me here. I'll be back soon." With that, Lin leaped onto the black brick and soared into the sky. The Stoneflower Prefecture was the prefecture city closest to the 10,000 Spirits immortal sect. It was rumored that the women here all had fair skin and slender figures. As such, this prefecture city had the highest concentration of beautiful women in the entire Stone Dragon state. The more beautiful women there were, the more romantic places there would be. Based on his past experience, Lin made a conservative estimate that there should be no less than 30 such places in Shihua County. Fortunately, he didn't need to search each house one by one, because he had signed a pet beast contract with Dabai. As long as they were within a 10-mile radius, they could sense each other's location. Just like that, Lin arrived at the entrance of Spring River House. Looking at the large pavilion, he sneered, "It's really grand. I'm afraid this is the best brothel in Shihua Prefecture." "What are you talking about, young master? This is a proper place. The women here only sell their skills, not their bodies. This is a place that specializes in showcasing their talents and bringing joy to their customers." A brothel keeper dressed in a seductive outfit said in a seductive voice as she sidled up to Lin, "How about 10 spirit stones?" And Lin asked, "Young master, you should come in and listen to the women sing and play the zither," the brothel keeper said with a smile. 100 spirit stones, and Lin continued. The brothel keeper's expression shifted as she asked in a low voice, "What kind of women do you want? Apart from our top courtesan, anyone else is fine." As expected, this place was different from the Windflower Court he had been to before. This really was a brothel. "I'll go in and have a look." And Lin nodded before making his way into the room. The brothel keeper could see that Lin's attire and disposition were both extraordinary, so she immediately followed behind him and introduced him to the women. At the same time, in a private room, a furry white dog sat on a chair with his legs crossed as he drank and sang merrily with a group of beautiful women. "Big brother why am I the one drinking again?" The woman in green asked shyly with a seductive expression. "Ha ha ha. It's a game. You have to be willing to lose. You only have 2 choices. Drink or take off a piece of clothing, woof." This white dog was none other than Dabai. He stared intently at the woman in green with his big, watery eyes and stuck out his tongue as he spoke with excitement. "That's right. Either drink or take off your clothes. I've already stripped down to my underwear, and you still have 2 pieces of clothing. What are you being shy about?" A woman in a red underwear with a voluptuous figure exclaimed in a loud voice. The woman in green had no choice but to take off a piece of clothing, revealing a portion of her body. Dabai's legs trembled slightly as he looked on with excitement. His other paw also made a sudden attack on the woman's butt. Big Brother Bai is so mean," the voluptuous woman yelled. Dabai was extremely excited upon hearing this. "Woof! Let's continue. Little Purple, don't stop singing." On the other side, the woman in purple nodded shyly and continued to sing. Thus, Dabai continued to happily play the game. And then, the woman in the red underwear lost. Dabai swallowed with an excited expression. "Are you going to drink or take off?" The woman in the red underwear blushed as she caressed her towering, soft, and bouncy chest. "What do you think, Big Brother Bai? Take off, take off, take off, woof." Dabai's legs were on the ground as he yelled. Boom! The door was kicked open. "What do you mean take off? Who dares to spoil my fun, woof?" Dabai was just in the middle of his excitement when he was interrupted, and he flared up with rage. "Me." The man walked in and looked at Dabai with a cold expression. Dabai raised his head and his legs trembled. Big brother, and why are you here?" The man was Lin. The moment he walked in, he saw the woman in green who was wearing thin clothes, and the voluptuous woman who was only wearing a red underwear. Even he couldn't help but be slightly dazed by this scene. The brothel keeper behind Lin realized that this extravagant lord dog actually called the man in front of her big brother, and she couldn't help but become even more respectful. She even secretly hinted to the maid next to her to immediately call the top courtesan of Spring River House over. "I'm here to see we are having fun. I'm not disturbing you, am I?" And Lin grinned, but his tone was extremely unfriendly. "Welcome, big brother, and how can I say that I'm disturbing you? Come, let's play a game and have fun together." Dabai jumped off the chair and used his fluffy white fur to rub against Lin, with a fawning expression on his face. "Have fun together?" And Lin's veins popped out. Did this Dabai not realize what he had done wrong? "Speak. Why did you come here?" And Lin loudly reprimanded. Dabai blinked his big round eyes and said, "To visit a brothel." And Lin's chest tightened. "You answered so honestly. How am I supposed to reply?" He thought for a moment and decided to change his approach. "Speak. Why do you like women and not female dogs?" Dabai's face turned red when he heard this. He shyly lowered his head and said, "Women have smooth and delicate skin, big breasts, and perky buttocks. What else do female dogs have other than a lot of fur? With such a comparison, of course I'll choose the woman." After saying this, he looked at the woman who was only wearing an underwear, and his eyes lit up. And Lin's eyes darkened when he heard this. There was nothing wrong with what Dabai said, and he agreed with it. But it was especially problematic when these words came out of Dabai's mouth. Hey, was this something a dog should say? Could it be that Dabai was a human who had been reborn and then possessed the body of a dog? Perhaps he had been possessed by some mighty being. No, only a mighty being would attempt to possess a dog. Just as Lin's thoughts were running wild, a servant's voice sounded from outside the door. "Sister Lan Yu is here." Immediately afterward, a lithe and graceful woman pushed open the door and entered, bringing with her a cool breeze. Chapter 169. "Top courtesan Sister Lan Yu is here," someone announced. Creak. A lithe and graceful woman pushed open the door and entered. She was dressed in a blue dress, and her silky black hair fluttered in the wind. Her beautiful eyes darted around before finally settling on Lin. She bowed slightly and said, "Your servant, Lan Yu, pays her respects to you, young master." And Lin glanced at Lan Yu before glaring at Dabai. "Did you call her here as well?" Dabai shook his head, but his eyes lit up. "I didn't call her, but she's very good. Let her stay." And Lin slapped his forehead. He felt like Dabai was beyond cure. He couldn't control himself at the sight of a beautiful woman. "What about Qinghua?" The brothel keeper, standing behind Lin, began to speak. "Lan Yu is the top courtesan of our Spring River House. Her singing and playing skills are the best in the Sherwa Prefecture. Young master, why don't you give her a listen?" "The best in the Sherwa Prefecture?" And Lin nodded upon hearing this. He had an indescribable fondness for the songs of the Kingdom of the Nine States. Seeing as Lan Yu could sing, he didn't mind listening to her. "Then I won't disturb you, young master." The brothel keeper walked out of the room with a wide smile on her face after seeing Lin nod in agreement. Lan Yu smiled daintily and sat down on a chair with her wooden pipa in her arms. "May I ask what level of playing and singing would you like to hear, young master?" And Lin was dazed. "How many levels are there?" "Playing and singing casually, 100 spirit stones per song. Normal playing and singing, 200 spirit stones per song. Serious playing and singing, 300 spirit stones per song. Passionate playing and singing, 500 spirit stones per song." Lan Yu's eyes were like limpid autumn waters as she spoke in an extremely pleasant voice. And Lin's lips twitched. What the hell was playing and singing casually? Couldn't she be more professional as a top courtesan? Dabai's eyes lit up again, and he immediately asked, "Woof, are you going to sing and take off your clothes?" Bang! And Lin punched Dabai's head, causing a huge bump to appear. He said angrily, "Can't you just be a dog? Why do you want to be a man?" Dabai's face was full of grievance, but Lan Yu covered her mouth and chuckled. "I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint Brother Bai. I only sell my skills, not my body. Then let's play and sing to our heart's content." And Lin thought that since he wasn't short of money, he would definitely listen to the best. Lan Yu nodded, and her slender hands began to dance on the lute. The beautiful melody was paired with her gentle voice, and both Lin and Bai felt a sense of elation wash over their bodies. The beauty in the red doo-doo and the woman in green were consciously pouring wine for Lin and Bai. Accompanied by the beautiful music, Lin felt that it was time to get down to business. "Lin, Dabai, tell me the truth. Are you a man in human form?" Dabai was sipping wine and listening to the tune, but a bitter expression appeared on his face when he heard Lin's question. "Big brother, and I really did come out of my mother's womb. I'm a genuine male dog. As for why I'm like a man and like beautiful women, I don't know why either." And Lin's expression became solemn. "Then if you had to choose between Lan Yu and Qing Hua as your wife, who would you choose?" This time, Dabai was a little stumped, and his face furrowed slightly as a conflicted expression appeared on his face. And Lin heaved a sigh of relief. The fact that he was still conflicted meant that Dabai's sense of beauty hadn't been twisted to the point of no return. He could still be saved. Dabai was a little exasperated. "It's really hard to choose a wife. Lan Yu is so beautiful, but it's a pity that she can't bear puppies. Qing Hua can bear puppies, but her figure and appearance are too ordinary." And Lin almost blacked out upon hearing this. F***CK. Puppies weren't humans, so how could they have any curves? F***CK. So this was what Dabai was conflicted about. There really was no saving him. Suddenly, Lin thought of another possibility. "Dabai, could your father be like you, liking human beauties?" He had to start his research from the perspective of heredity. If it really was hereditary, then there was nothing he could do. Dabai smiled with pride. "Of course. Thinking back, it was my father who took me to brothels. We even had a famous nickname, the Bai Wastrels." And Lin was dumbfounded upon hearing this. Holy F***CK. This was even more terrifying than heredity. Bai Xian actually took Dabai to brothels. And Lin didn't know what to say anymore. Dabai's current state was completely his father's fault. It was the father's fault for not teaching his son properly. In any case, it was Bai Xian's job to worry about whether or not Dabai would bring a beautiful wife back with him. And Lin wasn't going to take the blame for this. With this in mind, Lin's heart was finally at ease. It's none of my business anyway. If Dabai likes women, then so be it. No matter how you look at it. A voluptuous beauty is prettier than a puppy. And Lin felt relieved. Accompanied by the singing of the blue moon, he, Dabai, the beauty in the red doo-doo, the woman in green, and the others drank to their heart's content. On an immortal mountain in the 10,000 spirits immortal sect, Xiao Cho squatted in front of a house, waiting for Lin and Dabai to return. And Lin said he would be back soon. He still had to make a trip to the Greenwood Imperial Palace after this, so Xiao Cho was ready to go. Noon arrived, but Lin still hadn't returned. Xiao Cho was still waiting. Before he knew it, the afternoon had passed, but there was still no sign of Lin. Could it be that something happened to Big Brother when he went to capture Dabai? Xiao Cho was a little uneasy, but he still waited at the door. The sun gradually set, and the moon and stars gradually appeared in the night sky. Boom! The ground suddenly trembled violently, startling Xiao Cho awake from his nap. He looked over to see Dubai's head plunged into the ground, creating a large crater. Dubai was sprawled on all fours as he wailed in anguish. And Lin also tumbled to the ground and stumbled unsteadily. Big brother, and my head hurts so bad. How did you get on your dog? I crashed into the ground. Dubai stuttered and stuttered, and Lin punched the dusty dog's head again. Stupid, stupid dog. I told you to land here, but you made a 360-degree spiral descent, and you even made it face down. Do you really think you're an impact drill? Dubai faltered slightly upon hearing this. He then realized that he really was a little stupid, and he burst into laughter. And Lin was quite amused, and he also chortled with mirth. The man and dog reeked of alcohol as they walked into the room with their arms around each other's shoulders. And Lin then looked at Xiao Cho, who was still in a daze, and patted his shoulder with a regretful expression. Xiao Cho, I'm so sorry. The girls from Spring River Brothel are so talented. It's a pity that I didn't invite you earlier. Xiao Cho grimaced. Big brother, and shouldn't you be going to the brothel to capture Dubai? Why did you go to a brothel with Dubai? And Lin's brows furrowed. How can a cultivator's brothel be called a brothel? We didn't do anything like that. It should be called a romantic affair. Dubai's eyes lit up upon hearing this, and a sinister smile appeared on his face. As expected of Big Brother, and you're so cultured. Next time, let's bring Xiao Cho along for a romantic affair. Sure. And Lin chuckled heartily as he slung an arm around Xiao Cho's shoulder and returned to his room. This beautiful day finally came to an end. Chapter 170. Early in the morning, and Lin woke up. The sun shone through the paper window onto his face, bringing with it a hint of warmth. There was a little red flower in a flower pot on the windowsill. She was Xiaohong. Even though Lin had not forgotten to let her bask in the sun and undergo photosynthesis these past few days, there was still no sign of her awakening. He put Xiaohong away in his pocket and gathered Dubai and Xiao Cho together before bidding farewell to Xinyuan Cheng. Before leaving, Tang Xuan gave Lin a white jade pendant for self-protection, saying that it was to repay him for saving her life on the Heavenly Dawn Peak. And Lin didn't think too much about it and accepted it. Tang Xuan was a woman in a white dress who was as ethereal as clouds and mist. She stood quietly on the mountain peak as she looked on at the departing Lin on his dog. The wind swept her hair about as she gripped tightly onto the other jade pendant in her hand. The Purple Star State was located to the east of the Stone Dragon State and was the only state in the Kingdom of the Nine States that did not restrict the development of science and technology. The Greenwood imperial family of the 4 sects and 9 emperors was the model leader in the integration of cultivation and science and technology. The Greenwood imperial family had reached some kind of agreement with the Celestial Court, so the Celestial Court did not interfere with their research in this field. Instead, they provided them with a certain amount of funding. The Purple Star State and the Stone Dragon State were neighbors, so Lin did not use the teleportation spell formation. Instead, he flew on his dog. After entering the territory of the Purple Star State, he immediately sensed something different. The buildings here were no longer simple brick and tile structures. Instead, they were all made of concrete. He even saw trains. Even though they were steam trains, it was still quite astonishing. The roads on the ground were very well planned, and there were all types of strange vehicles on them. There were 4-wheeled vehicles that looked like cars, as well as streamlined flying machines that hovered in the air. He even saw massive airships flying in the sky. They didn't fly very quickly, but they could carry at least 1,000 people. The technological level of the Purple Star State was most likely at the time of the First Industrial Revolution, but there were many things that had never been seen on Earth. This was a combination of futuristic and retro elements, and Lin couldn't help but sigh in amazement. As they flew towards the Greenwood Imperial Palace, they saw countless strange things. In the end, Lin was a little worried that the palace they would arrive at would be a skyscraper. Finally, they arrived at their destination. He heaved a sigh of relief in his heart because the style of the Greenwood Imperial Palace was not much different from the style in his heart. The splendid and magnificent palaces formed a huge and magnificent group of palaces. The golden glazed roofs emitted a noble and dignified glow under the sunlight. The gates of the palace were guarded by dozens of armored soldiers with powerful auras. After Enlin reported his intentions, one of the generals guarding the gate immediately began to contact the person in charge of the palace. "All right, I'll bring the guest in." "What? Her Royal Highness is coming in person?" All right. The general hung up the transmission talisman and turned to Enlin with an extremely respectful expression. "Princess Yunlu is already on her way here. Please wait patiently." Enlin nodded and stretched lazily on Dubai's back. Soon, he heard the rumbling of footsteps. "Classmate Enlin," a soft and mellow voice sounded from afar. Enlin raised his head and saw Su Qianyun running toward him on the back of a huge blue wolf that was over 20 feet tall. She wore a red palace robe, and there was a wide smile on her delicate face as she waved at Enlin. "Hi, Su Qianyun." Enlin smiled and greeted her as well. "I didn't think that you would come to play with me, Enlin. This is such a pleasant surprise." Su Qianyun was clearly very happy as she revealed an extremely sweet smile. Enlin couldn't take his eyes off her. "All right, this sky lake wolf is called Xiao Man. It's my pet beast," Su Qianyun introduced as she led Enlin into the palace on her huge blue wolf. The sky lake wolf was several times larger than Dubai. It looked mighty and majestic, and its aura was extremely vast. It was most likely already at the level of a soul formation stage soul beast. Enlin also extended a warm greeting toward the heavenly lake wolf. Then he looked at the sky lake wolf, then at his own Dubai, and fell into deep thought. Both of them were riding on their pet beasts, but he felt an indescribable sense of awkwardness. If he had to describe it, he felt that Su Qianyun was driving a Ferrari while he was driving a Cherry QQ. The difference in style was like heaven and earth. Due to the difference in height between the two pet beasts, he had to raise his head to talk to Su Qianyun. It wasn't like Su Qianyun was wearing a short skirt, so he didn't feel happy talking with his head raised. Instead, his neck felt tired. With this in mind, he stroked Dubai's head expectantly and asked softly, "Dubai, can you become as big as Xiao Man?" Dubai rolled his eyes and answered concisely, "I can't. I'm only this big, anyway. Ride me if you want." Enlin heaved a disappointed sigh upon hearing this. Seeing Enlin's expression, Su Qianyun immediately came back to her senses. She secretly scolded herself for not taking care of Enlin's feelings. Then, she patted Xiao Man's head. The sky lake wolf understood. With a flash of blue light, it began to grow to the same size as Dubai. Just like that, Su Qianyun and Enlin began to walk side by side. Seeing this, Enlin couldn't help but be stunned. Then, he patted Dubai's head and said enviously, "Look at Xiao Man. She can grow and shrink at will. She's so agile." Dubai's fur stood up, and he sneered. "I can grow and shrink at will too, woof. I'll show you now." "Really?" Enlin's eyes lit up, and he began to feel excited. With a flash of white light, Enlin fell to the ground with a plop. In front of him, a mini version of Dubai appeared. It was Dubai's size before he formed his gold core. "Look, I can grow and shrink at will too. Do you like it?" "Woof." Dubai sneered. Enlin crawled up from the ground. Hearing this, his chest tightened, and he immediately begged, "Dubai, stop it. I don't want you to grow. Turn back to your original majestic appearance. Now you know how to suck up to me? It's too late, woof." Saying this, Dubai maintained his mini size and walked forward with his head high and chest out. Enlin, humans always learned to cherish things when they lost them. Now, even Cherry QQ was gone. He could only walk. Su Qianyun found that poor Enlin could only walk. She thought for a moment, and then patted Xiao Man's head. Xiao Man understood and turned into a small wolf the same size as Dubai. Looking at it this way, they looked like two puppies walking side by side. Su Qianyun also walked to Enlin's side with a slight smile. Enlin was touched. How gentle and considerate classmate. Su looks like my Mandarin and English weren't taught in vain. Enlin was so touched that he said to Su Qianyun in Mandarin, "Classmate Su, you look so beautiful when you smile." Su Qianyun's dreamy blue eyes blinked. Then, she stared blankly at Enlin and asked softly, "What did you just say?" Enlin, "Fine, looks like my Mandarin and English were taught in vain." Chapter 171. Enlin and Su Qinyan walked side by side in the Greenwood Imperial Palace. The Greenwood Imperial Palace was extremely vast. Not only was there a majestic palace, but there was also a picturesque imperial mountain, a gentle lake, and a sea of flowers. It had to be said that the scenery within the Imperial Palace was truly beautiful. The two of them had a smooth journey and enjoyed themselves to their heart's content. Apart from a few clan members casting curious glances at Enlin, nothing else happened. Up ahead is the 6th research lab of our Imperial Palace. "Do you want to go take a look?" Su Qinyan asked as she pointed at a building that was constructed from white jade. "Research lab? Is it related to technology and cultivation research?" Enlin's eyes lit up as he asked. That's right. That's where the great scientist of our imperial family, Professor Yang, conducts his research. There are many interesting things inside, Su Qianyun said with a smile. As she spoke, 2 small dimples appeared on her fair and tender face, making her appear extremely adorable. "Let's go take a look." Enlin's interest was instantly piqued upon hearing this. He was extremely curious and had a desire to explore things that were a combination of technology and cultivation. As they pushed open the metal door, they were greeted by all kinds of strange mechanical creations. There were also all kinds of magic tools and formation discs hanging in the air. Wow, so many treasures. Enlin's eyes almost sparkled as he stared at these metallic objects. Haha, the word treasures is well used. I like it. A bespectacled middle-aged man with messy hair and a stubble on his face walked over with a smile. Enlin was slightly taken aback upon seeing this middle-aged man. This was the first time he had seen a bespectacled man in the Kingdom of the 9 States. Oh no, Madagascar seemed to have worn one before as well. However, hers were just for decoration. He is the great scientist of our Greenwood Imperial family, Professor Yang, Su Qianyun introduced with a smile. Enlin nodded respectfully. "Hello, I am Enlin, Su Qianyun's classmate." Professor Yang adjusted his spectacles, which reflected the light of wisdom. A mysterious smile appeared on his face. "Princess Yunlu, this seems to be the first time you've brought another man around. You seem to have a good relationship." "Enlin is my classmate. I'm just doing my duty as a host." Su Qianyun was a shy girl, and her face immediately turned bright red at the slightest bit of teasing. Professor Yang waved his hand. "I can't be bothered with this matter. Anyway, it's fine as long as Fairy Chong isn't angry. By the way, what are you doing here?" I brought classmate Enlin here to witness the most advanced cultivation technology," Su Qianyun replied after changing the subject. She had recovered a bit of her composure. "I see," Professor Yang said. "It's very dangerous to touch with them." "It is." Su Qianyun was delighted to hear this. "That's great. Thank you, Professor Yang." After that, Professor Yang brought in Lin and Su Qianyun to see all kinds of machines. There were flying machines, such as the steel bone wings that could allow one to soar in the blue sky. There were also the cloud movement boots and hover discs that were more portable. Although these flying machines were not as nimble as spirit-nurturing stage cultivators, they could allow Tao body stage cultivators to use their own vital energy to fly into the blue sky. This was definitely a great boon for Tao body stage cultivators who longed for the blue sky. However, these things were very expensive to manufacture. Currently, only some special forces could afford them. Next were all kinds of everyday tools. For example, beads that could automatically adjust the temperature and humidity within a certain range, white cotton clouds that could purify filth in. There were new weapons that combine cultivation and technology. An ordinary weapon, such as a handgun, could compress a cultivator's vitality and store it for energy. Finally, it could shoot out an extremely penetrating projectile. There were more advanced weapons, such as the lightning cloud sword, which could collect divine lightning, the black sky cannon, which was a magic tool, but could store wind energy, the light net killing formation, which could be combined with spell formations. It had to be said that if these things could be mass-produced, they could definitely increase the power of cultivators by several levels. And Lin walked to the end of the research institute. There was a huge object there. Tubes crisscrossed and intertwined with each other. Blue symbols flashed on the intricate components, and a cold aura slowly emanated from it. The huge pitch-black cannon was aimed at the sky, as if it was about to destroy the heavens. "What's that?" Lin asked in amazement as he pointed at the gigantic mechanical construct. Professor Yang smiled mysteriously. "This is a secret of the Imperial family, so I won't introduce it." And Lin nodded and continued to follow behind Professor Yang. "Now, let me introduce my new invention to you. I call it the Super Steel Puppet." Professor Yang arrived in front of a black metal box and opened it. A brilliant white light instantly shone from within, and Lin's eyes widened. A humanoid metal puppet had appeared before him. To put it more accurately, it was a Gundam that was about the size of a human. It had a metallic sheen, a cold cannon barrel, a sharp blade, and an energy slot in the center. Apart from the fact that this machine was a little ugly, everything else was very similar. This super steel puppet I've created has an extremely high defense. Even soul formation stage cultivators won't be able to break through its metal skin. It also has plasma cannons, vital energy cannons, and 5 elemental cannons. There's also a super steel alloy sword. It can be said that if we can mass produce this thing, our Imperial family will definitely stand at the top of the 9 Imperial families. Professor Yang adjusted his glasses with a smug and confident expression on his face. Su Qinyun smiled faintly beside him. She had seen this super steel puppet before, and it was indeed very powerful. This super steel puppet was no longer a secret among the Imperial family and even the upper-level immortal sects of the Purple Star State. On the contrary, the Greenwood Imperial family had intentionally revealed this secret to form a military deterrent. In any case, even if the other immortal sects knew of its existence, they wouldn't be able to create it. What do you think, Lin, my young friend? I'm not trying to boast, but there's definitely no mechanical puppet creation in this world that can compare to it. This super steel puppet is the epitome of perfection and romance. Professor Yang looked at Lin, expecting to see admiration and admiration on his face. Unfortunately, Lin disappointed Professor Yang. He actually looked at the super steel puppet with a strange expression. Just as Professor Yang was feeling a little displeased, Lin spoke again. I also have a mechanical puppet creation. Do you want to take a look?" "What did you say? You also have one?" Professor Yang's expression changed. Then, he felt that what Lin was about to take out was probably a pheasant puppet covered in iron, so he chuckled lightly. "Then take it out for me to take a look. Perhaps I can help you improve it." And Lin nodded. Then, he took out the humanoid Gundam that he had snatched from the 88th Purple Star Research Institute from his storage ring and placed it on the ground. This Gundam shone with a white metallic luster, and its entire body was sleek and sleek. Moreover, it exuded a faint aura of its own, as if it was a living being. Professor Yang's disdainful gaze gradually became sluggish, and even his breathing became ragged. His hands exuded a golden glow as he stroked the white Gundam with trembling hands. His lips trembled as he said, "Alloy material construction, perfect. Formation, route coordination, perfect. Body coordination, perfect. Weapon, unknown." Just like that, Professor Yang was completely defeated. This was because compared to the mechanical puppet that Lin had taken out, his super steel puppet couldn't even compare to a pheasant puppet. It was completely trash. Chapter 172. "It's really too perfect," Professor Yang exclaimed and hugged the mechanical puppet on the ground tightly. As if he was hugging a great beauty, his face was filled with bliss and intoxication. Beside him, Lin and Su Qinyun were stunned. Where did the mature and steady Professor Yang go? Why do you look like a pervert now? After hugging the mechanical puppet for a long time, Professor Yang began to regain his senses. He raised his head to look at Lin and said excitedly, "My friend Lin, how did you get such a wonderful mechanical puppet?" And Lin scratched his head and said sheepishly, "About that, can I not tell you?" Hearing this, Professor Yang nodded and did not continue to ask about this. Such a perfect creation, the technological level of the existence that created this thing had definitely reached an unimaginable level. In fact, he already had a guess in his heart. Your mechanical puppet doesn't seem to have an energy source, Professor Yang said as he looked at the circular object in the center of the Gundam. And Lin nodded and said excitedly, yes, the core of this mechanical puppet is the fusion of 100 beasts. It can perfectly fuse technology and bloodline power. However, I have no idea how to create this core's energy source. In the information he obtained from the ruins, there was no information on how to create a mechanical puppet's energy source. Therefore, even if he had this mechanical puppet, he would not be able to use it. It was precisely because of this that he decided to take this thing out in front of Professor Yang. He wanted to see if the great scientist who had done research on this could solve this problem. Professor Yang adjusted his glasses, which reflected the light of wisdom, and said with a passionate gaze, the key to the construction of the energy core is the absorption and conversion of energy, as well as the construction of a spiritual network that can communicate with the owner. You found the right person to find. In the entire Kingdom of the 9 States, I'm probably the only person who can help you create a qualified energy source. Really? Then what do I need to pay? And Lin was overjoyed and said excitedly. He knew that the mechanical puppet's energy source was not an ordinary item. It would definitely cost a lot to create it. He was already mentally prepared. Professor Yang raised 3 fingers. And Lin was a little hesitant. 300,000 spirit stones? Professor Yang shook his head and said with a faint smile, I don't want money. I just want you to leave the mechanical puppet with me and let me study it for 3 days. 3 days later, I will return both the puppet and the energy source. And Lin blinked in confusion. What you want is technology. Not stupid. Professor Yang smiled gently and continued. That's right. Although I've done a lot of research on mechanical products, this is the first time I've seen such a perfect mechanical puppet. I hope to learn some new knowledge through these 3 days of exploration. All right, but you have to help me create 2 energy sources. And Lin nodded and made another request. Anyway, this was not a loss to him, and he even saved a lot of money, which was actually very good for him. Professor Yang was stunned. Why? You want one as a backup? And Lin shook his head. No, because I have 2 such mechanical puppets. But now that you mention it, I still want 4 energy sources. It's better to be safe than sorry. Professor Yang almost spat out a mouthful of blood upon hearing this. Do you think creating energy sources doesn't cost money? The cost is going to scare you to death. I can only make 2, no more. Just like that, and Lin and Professor Yang reached a deal. He left some blood essence in the research lab as a material for the energy source to connect to the mind-spirit network. After that, he left with Su Qinyun in satisfaction and continued to play. As expected of a great scientist. He's so awesome. He can even create energy sources. And Lin was in a good mood and praised as he walked. Su Qinyun pursed her lips and smiled. And Lin is also very impressive to be able to create such a perfect mechanical puppet. This is the first time I've seen Professor Yang lose his composure like that. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but Lin felt that Su Qinyun seemed to be better at talking than before and had become much more considerate. Look, even praising him was so good. The 2 of them continued to wander around. Other than some forbidden areas of the royal family that they didn't enter, they basically played in all the other interesting places. At night, Lin and Abai also feasted on the delicacies of the Greenwood Imperial Palace. Not only did the delicacies in the palace look and smell excellent, but they would also add a lot of wild spiritual items. It was delicious and could also unknowingly strengthen one's body and increase one's cultivation. Hence, Lin was full of praise for this dish, and his stomach bulged from all the food he ate. Dabai was a puppy for a day. Seeing the table full of delicacies, he also transformed into a giant dog. Not for anything else, but to eat a little more. Just like that, a happy day passed. The next day, Lin and Su Qinyun once again came to Professor Yang's research lab. Lin was dumbfounded when he saw his Gundam being dismembered into pieces by Professor Yang. Professor Yang, what are you doing? Lin panicked, as if he had seen his treasure being smashed by his other friends. Professor Yang raised his eyes and said, Isn't it obvious? I'm doing in-depth research. Lin stared at the hundreds and thousands of broken parts on the ground and took a deep breath. Are you sure you can restore it to its original state? Professor Yang smiled gently and said seriously, Don't worry, I'm a professional. And Lin couldn't bear to watch any longer, and he dragged Su Qinyan along with him as he made his way out of the room. His heart ached, and he felt extremely uneasy as he watched his baby being disassembled into pieces. Now, he could only pray that this Professor Yang of the cultivation world would be more serious and responsible. He wouldn't be like some experts in China. When he walked outside, he suddenly heard a soft voice by his ear, Your hand. And Lin blinked and looked at the beautiful face of the woman in front of him that had turned crimson. He felt the soft and gentle hand in his hand and was so scared that he immediately let go. Sorry, I was too excited. No, it's fine. Su Qinyan shook her head and calmed herself down before replying in a low voice. Big Sister Chong, he said that you won't get pregnant if you hold hands with another man. You'll only get pregnant if you kiss him. And Lin was stunned when he heard this. 10,000 alpacas rolled through his heart. Kissing will get pregnant? Is it really okay for Sister Chong to teach Sister Su Qinyan like this? However, he didn't dare to teach Su Qinyan the correct physiological knowledge. If he did this, he would really be killed by Sister Chong. On the way back, and Lin met another luxuriously dressed man who was very beautiful. Second brother, where are you going? Su Qinyan smiled and greeted the man, and Lin came back to his senses. Su Qinyan had two brothers, Su Gu and Su Xin. This man in front of him seemed to be her second brother, Su Xin. Su Xin's skin was fair and delicate, and his appearance was even more handsome. And Lin was struck by a sense of awe as soon as he laid eyes on him. The word beautiful was an extremely apt description for him. As expected of brother and sister, their genes were really good. Su Xin turned around and saw who it was. A doting smile immediately appeared on his handsome face. Swordsman Jiang Yanan is coming to the Imperial Palace to give a lecture today. I'm just about to go over and ask for some guidance. Are you interested in going over? Hearing this, Su Qinyan's eyes lit up. Sure, I'm actually very interested in practicing swordsmanship. Su Xn nodded, then turned his gaze to Lin and asked curiously, Fellow cultivator, you are? Su Qinyan slapped her forehead in a daze and said apologetically, Oh, he's my classmate. His name isn't Lin. This is my brother, Su Xin. After Su Qinyan's introduction, and Lin and Su Xin also greeted each other. Then the three of them began to walk together. Afterwards, Su Xin glanced at Lin from time to time, appearing extremely curious. His gaze made Lin feel somewhat uncomfortable. As an experienced and knowledgeable person, he couldn't help but have a bad guess. Could it be that Su Xin was interested in him? Chapter 173. Sword Dao Master Jiang Yanan was renowned as the #1 sword prodigy in the Purple Star State. He was born to be a sword immortal. It was said that when he was born, he used his finger as a sword and severed his mother's umbilical cord. Before he even learned how to walk, he had already learned how to wield a wooden sword. When he was 3 years old, Jiang Yanan reached the second stage Dao body and became a renowned prodigy. What was even more frightening was that he could actually use a magic longsword to unleash sword intent that only cultivators of the 4th stage Dao body could unleash. A prodigy like him should have broken through to the spirit-nurturing stage before the age of 30. However, he only managed to break through at the age of 35. Why? It was because he was pondering how to perform sword kinesis flight at the Dao body rank. This was originally something that was out of this world. Sword kinesis flight required extremely precise control of vital energy. To achieve this, one had to borrow the power of a spirit root. However, Jiang Yanan did it. When he was of the 10th stage Dao body, he successfully performed sword kinesis flight. He became the first person in history to perform sword kinesis flight at the Dao body rank. After that, he accumulated a lot of experience, reaching the soul formation stage at the age of 50 and the soul formation final stage at the age of 200. Now, although his cultivation base was only of the soul formation final stage, his comprehension of the Sword Dao was even more profound than many supreme beings of the Return to Void stage. Moreover, his true intent of the sword had also reached an unimaginable level. His experiences had already become a legend in the Purple Star State, even renowned throughout the Kingdom of the Nine States. Right now, such a freakish figure was conducting a lesson on the sword Tao at a drill ground in the Imperial Palace. On the drill ground, several hundred luxuriously dressed students sat on grass mats. They were members of the Greenwood Imperial family. Although they were only collateral relatives and not direct descendants like Su Qinyun, Su Gu, and Su Exan, their statuses were still extremely respected in the Purple Star State. At this moment, they were listening respectfully to Jiang Yanan's lesson. Some of their eyes were even burning with passion, as if they had seen their idol. They couldn't bear to look away for even a second. Jiang Yanan stood proudly on the drill ground. His handsome face was like a crown of jade, and his snow-white hair danced behind him. He had purposely dyed his hair this color because he felt that it would better accentuate his aura. As a matter of fact, the burning gazes of the hundreds of students sitting down below explained everything. Jiang Yanan smiled calmly and continued his lecture. Now that we're done with the way of the sword, let's talk about sword intent. The difference between sword intent and sword Tao is that sword Tao is the Tao that a sword immortal takes, but sword intent is the true meaning that points directly to the origins. It has a concept that can be materialized, and it can greatly increase the might of our sword moves. At this moment, Lin, Su Qinyun, and Su Exan walked over together. The arrival of the two direct descendants of the imperial family undoubtedly attracted many people's attention. Jiang Yanan had also noticed these three people. He was just about to find someone to practice with so that he could have a negative example. At this moment, when he saw the unfamiliar in Lin, a thought occurred to him, and he said leisurely, "I have an intent realm crystal here. It can be used to implant one's true meaning into the crystal and engage in a battle of intent. This way, it can better reflect a person's grasp of the way of the sword true meaning. I see that this fellow cultivator is extraordinarily handsome. Why don't you come up here and spar with me?" Jiang Yanan extended his palm toward Lin and made an inviting gesture. Lin, who had originally only intended to be a bystander, was stunned by Jiang Yanan's gesture. He pointed at himself and asked, "Me?" A warm smile appeared on Jiang Yanan's face. "That's right, you. Don't worry. Even if the avatar in the intent realm crystal is destroyed, it won't cause any damage to the original body. I can even guide you according to your grasp of the way of the sword true meaning." Hearing Jiang Yanan's words, the crowd of imperial students all cast envious gazes toward Lin. To be able to receive personal guidance from Jiang Yanan on the way of the sword true meaning, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Under such circumstances, Lin could not refuse. He could only brace himself and walk over to Jiang Yanan's side. Jiang Yanan gazed at Lin with a gentle gaze. For a spar and guidance of way of the sword true meaning, this young man before him was the most suitable candidate. The fact that Lin could be so close to Su Qinyun and the others meant that they must have a very good relationship. Moreover, he must have a powerful background. If he directly invited Su Qinyun or Su Exan, it would be too blatant. However, inviting Lin to come up and guide him would attract a lot of attention. At the same time, he would also bestow upon the imperial family a great favor. How wonderful! Jiang Yanan nodded with a satisfied expression, praising his own choice. "May I ask how I should address you, young friend?" Jiang Yanan asked. "My name is Lin," and Lin replied with some trepidation. On the way here, he had listened to Su Qinyun's introduction of this man's glorious past. Just the fact that Jiang Yanan was able to use sword kinesis flight when he was only at the Tao body stage was enough to make him prostrate himself before him. How could he remain calm when sparring with such an awesome person? Jiang Yanan retrieved a white crystal the size of a movie screen from his storage ring. "This is the intent realm crystal," he explained. "As long as you place your hands on the crystal and insert your thoughts, your consciousness will be able to enter the interior of the crystal. At that time, the battle of sword Tao true intent within the crystal will be reflected on the surface of the crystal." After his introduction, The Greenwood Imperial family disciples all gasped in amazement. Many of them were already itching to try it out for themselves. He was extremely satisfied with everyone's reaction. One had to realize that this intent realm crystal was a high-rank spirit tool, and it was the spirit tool that he was most satisfied with. Without it, the quality of his lessons would drop by quite a few notches. Then, let's begin, Jiang Yanin said to Enlin with an amiable expression. Just touch the crystal and direct my thoughts toward the crystal. Enlin asked uncertainly. That's right. Battling within the crystal is equivalent to a battle of intents. There's no danger at all. Jiang Yanin could not help but comfort Enlin again when he saw the uneasy expression on his face. The wind blew Jiang Yanin's elegant white hair, making him appear extremely fresh and handsome. He was like an extremely kind and otherworldly peerless sword immortal. This scene caused some of the surrounding students to be completely dumbfounded. They exclaimed in their hearts, "How could there be such a perfect man in this world?" Enlin placed his hand on the crystal. He felt the world spin around him, and his consciousness slowly sank into darkness. When he regained consciousness, he discovered that he had already appeared in a vast expanse of white space. Jiang Yanin was standing proudly and elegantly in front of him. Jiang Yanin carried his sword on his back, and he appeared very elegant and poised. In this place, there is no difference in cultivation base, he said in a clear voice. The only difference is the strength of one's true intent. In this place, I have defeated countless spirit-nurturing cultivators, 28 soul formation stage sword immortals, and 3 return to void stage cultivators. I have never tasted defeat. Jiang Yanin and Enlin's figures had already appeared on the intent realm crystal. Jiang Yanin's words caused the hearts of the students below to surge with excitement. Everyone's eyes burned with passion, as expected of a number 1 sword prodigy of the Purple Star State. His words were so domineering. Even Su Qianyun and Su Xin were completely focused. They watched the battle on the screen with great anticipation. They all focused their attention on Jiang Yanin, anticipating what his sword true intent would look like. As for Enlin, no one thought that he would win. He was merely a sparring partner for Jiang Yanin to demonstrate his sword intent. Thus, he did not attract much attention. Then let us begin, Jiang Yanin said calmly as he drew his longsword. A gust of wind blew over from an unknown source, causing his elegant white hair to flutter. Like a spotlight, a holy light descended from the sky and enveloped his entire body. It made him look like an invincible god of war who stood proudly in this world. Seeing this scene, Enlin's heart clenched. He instantly felt an immense pressure weighing down on him. He slowly drew his longsword and said, "All right, let us begin." Chapter 174. Mr. Enlin, why don't you make the first move? In this space, your sword intent will materialize. Make sure to combine your comprehension when you attack. Jiang Yanin held his sword in his hand as he spoke elegantly. If he made the first move, then Enlin would have no chance. Hence, he asked Enlin to make the first move so that he could give him some pointers. Enlin nodded seriously. He thought for a moment and decided to use the wind sword of the 6 techniques of the war god. This move was one of his trump cards, so it shouldn't be too embarrassing. As soon as he thought of this, white streams of wind started to envelop his longsword. Instantly, the air currents around him started to surge. Behind him, the image of a man suddenly appeared out of thin air. This man held the heavens in his hand, stirring up the winds and clouds. Finally, he condensed the air into a sword and pointed it at Jiang Yanin. The disciples on the drill ground originally weren't paying attention to Enlin. Now that they saw this grand scene, they couldn't help but focus their attention on Enlin. Is this sword intent strong or weak? I don't know. This is also my first time watching a battle between sword intents. However, judging from his appearance, he seems very powerful. It's just an empty stance. In the end, it was broken by Gajong's sword. Compared to the spectators on the drill ground who didn't know the truth, Jiang Yanin's eyes were wide open, and his face was full of shock. He was someone who had faced Enlin's sword intent directly, so he could feel this kind of intent very directly. This kind of pressure that gathered the winds and clouds of heaven and earth, this kind of arrogant and domineering aura caused his entire body to tremble. Jiang Yanan knew that the person standing in front of him was definitely a prodigy. No, he was the greatest enemy of his life. Sword come. Jiang Yanan opened his hand, and the space around him started to tremble. Immediately afterward, a pitch-black crack started to appear in the space. Endless chaos and black aura that could devour everything gathered in the sword, causing the sword to shine with a black glow as if it was going to suck and devour everything. This sword is called Terminus. It can shatter space and sever time. Jiang Yanan held the black sword in his hand and prepared to slash at Enlin. Seeing this, Enlin's eyes widened. F***CK, didn't you say you would let me make the first move? Why are you raising your sword to chop me now? Jiang Yanan's expression was solemn, and his white hair fluttered in the wind. His posture was aloof, but he thought to himself, damn it, if I let you make the first move, I won't be able to play anymore. Just like that, Jiang Yanan charged toward Enlin with his sword of eradication glowing with a black light. With a single thought, Enlin wanted to charge toward Jiang Yanan. However, to his surprise, the illusory figure of the man behind him pounced first. The white long sword in his hand was like a supreme light that could slice through the chaos, becoming the only color in his eyes. Rumble. The killing intent exploded in the crystal space, sweeping through the surroundings. The Imperial disciples on the martial arts practice field could only see the interweaving black and white colors on the screen. They could not see anything else. The two forces were like wild beasts tearing at each other. At this moment, even the dumbest person would begin to realize that this man, named Enlin's sword intent, was absolutely superb. A strange light appeared in Su Xian's eyes. He had seen duels of sword intent before, but this was the first time he had seen something like this. At this moment, he couldn't help but exclaim, fellow cultivator Enlin is indeed extraordinarily talented and extraordinary. Su Qianyun did not say anything. Her beautiful eyes were glued to the image on the crystal screen. The light slowly dissipated, and the two figures appeared on the screen once again. Both of them were extremely disheveled. Both of them were covered in wounds, and their faces were covered in dirt. Oh my God, God Jiang is injured? That's not the point. The point is that Enlin can actually fight God Jiang to this extent. Is a new sword prodigy about to be born? Many disciples stared at the figure on the crystal screen in a daze. It was as if they had seen something unbelievable. They had originally thought that Jiang Yanan could easily crush Enlin, but it looked like that was not the case. At this moment, the person who was the most shocked was Jiang Yanan, who was in the middle of the battle. Never would he have thought that a passerby whom he had randomly picked as a negative example would be so terrifying. I can't go on. I can't keep fighting. Jiang Yanan raised his proud head. A gust of wind blew through the air again, causing his elegant and smooth white hair to flutter. He looked at Enlin with a gentle gaze and said in a clear voice, "Thank you for letting me win." Huh? Enlin was dazed. What did he mean? Was it over? Seeing Enlin's reaction, Jiang Yanan's chest tightened. He continued in a leisurely manner. I'm sure you also know that there's no point in continuing to fight like this. You've already lost. After all, that was your most powerful sword intent just now, right? I have to admit that you're really strong. I acknowledge you. However, I still have a backup plan. So, let's stop here. He still has a backup plan? Enlin was dazed again. Then, he excitedly said, "What a coincidence. I also have a backup plan. Come, let's go again." Jiang Yanan's eyes widened, and his breathing also quickened. What? He still has a backup plan? What a coincidence. What a coincidence. Fellow Taoist Enlin, losing isn't scary. Just admit it openly. Only by facing yourself squarely can you continue to surpass yourself. You're the first person to force me into this situation. It's really not embarrassing to lose. Jiang Yanan was still as graceful as ever. However, he was roaring in his heart. F***CK, I've already praised you to this extent. Don't you understand human language? Hurry up and admit defeat. Enlin nodded seriously. Thank you for your acknowledgement, fellow Taoist Jiang Yanin. However, this is a rare opportunity. I still have one last sword strike to unleash. If I don't, I'll regret it. He had already discovered that competing in sword intent here could increase his proficiency in sword techniques. Furthermore, it didn't consume any vital energy. In the real world, he was unable to use the last few strikes of the 6 strikes of the war god due to the lack of vital energy in his body. However, he could do it here. Not only could he use the wind sword of the 6 strikes of the war god, but he could also use the last strike. Since that was the case, why not seize this opportunity to experience it for himself? Veins bulged on Jiang Yanin's forehead as he glared at Enlin. He felt as if a mouthful of blood was about to form in his chest. 6 strikes of the war god, 6th form, divine sword. A divine light flashed in Enlin's eyes. Instantly, a boundless might swept through heaven and earth. A dazzling golden light with a supreme divine might crashed into the surrounding space. Boom! A terrifying mighty force tore through space and crushed everything in this world. Before the sword had even been unleashed, Jiang Yanin and Enlin's bodies were swept into it. The crystal screen was once again engulfed by a golden light. Everyone on the drill ground stared at this scene in astonishment. Crack! A crisp sound rang out from within the crystal. The intent realm crystal had cracked open. Enlin and Jiang Yanin's consciousness returned. Both of them sat paralyzed on the ground with cold sweat pouring down their bodies. Outside the arena, the Imperial disciples all stared blankly at the cracked crystal and the 2 people who had returned. They fell into a strange silence. Second brother, a battle of sword intent can actually crack the intent realm crystal? Su Qianyun stared at Enlin in astonishment. Su Xian grimaced. Don't ask me. I've never seen anything like this. Jiang Yanin heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Enlin's consciousness had also returned. It could be said that the battle had ended in a draw. He was still the undefeated sword god, Jiang Yanin. Then, he discovered that all the spectating disciples were staring at the crystal in a daze. It was as if they had seen something inconceivable. He curiously turned his gaze toward the intent realm crystal. His vision darkened, and he almost fainted from fright. My crystal, his show-off weapon cracked, destroyed. Jiang Yanin's eyes widened. His lips trembled, and tears welled up in the corners of his eyes. He was crying. Chapter 175. Enlin also saw the cracked crystal, and he stood rooted to the spot, stupefied. Did he do it? I think he did it, but why did it crack? He didn't say that it would crack. Then, he saw Jiang Yanin, who had tears in his eyes. He instantly felt guilty and apologized. I'm sorry, Mr. Jiang Yanin. I really didn't do it on purpose. I didn't think that such a powerful sword intent would result in this. Hearing Enlin's apology, Jiang Yanin, who was on the verge of breaking down, almost spat out a mouthful of blood. On the drill ground, the Imperial disciples all came to their senses and came to a sudden realization. So, if one sword intent was too powerful, the intent realm crystal would crack. Su Xian also nodded thoughtfully. It seemed like this was the only explanation for what had just happened. But in this case, Jiang Yanin's sword intent hadn't cracked the crystal, but Enlin's sword intent had. Didn't this mean that the final victor of this battle was Enlin? Jiang Yanin also realized this problem. The situation gradually spiraled out of control. Everyone on the drill ground had already started discussing spiritedly. Some Greenwood Imperial family disciples looked at Enlin with fervent eyes, as if they were witnessing the birth of a new legend. Some disciples even looked suspiciously at Jiang Yanin, suspecting that he was a fake. Jiang Yanin, who had never tasted defeat, had never been in such a situation before. Was he really going to lose to a cultivator of the spirit-nurturing stage who was just passing by? If news of this got out, how could he, God Jiang, continue living? No, I can't let this happen. Jiang Yanin took a deep breath, and a refreshing smile once again appeared on his face. He said gently to Enlin, Mr. Enlin, you don't need to apologize. This is actually my mistake. This intent realm crystal has been in disrepair for many years, and it has already reached the point where it should be discarded. and Lin blinked. Is that so? Jiang Yanin said loudly. Of course. Do you know why I didn't dare to use my full strength during the battle? It was because I was afraid that it would shatter. As he said this, he punched the intent realm crystal. Boom! The crystal shattered with a loud bang, transforming into shards that glowed with a white light. The ground was littered with crystal shards, and his heart was also shattered into pieces. Look, it can't take it anymore. Let's consider this battle a draw. Let's fight again another day. Jiang Yanin squeezed out a smile and said to Enlin. Enlin pointed at the shattered crystals on the floor. In other words, I don't need to compensate you with anything, right? The sorrow in Jiang Yanin's heart flowed like a river when he heard this. However, there was a smile on his face. You must be joking, fellow Taoist Enlin. This was my mistake. How could I let you compensate me? Enlin looked at Jiang Yanin gratefully. Brother Jiang is such a good person. Realization dawned on all the disciples in the martial arts arena. So it was all the crystal's fault, causing Jiang Yanin to not dare to use his full strength. But even so, he still determined that his battle with Enlin was a draw. As expected of the #1 sword immortal prodigy of the Purple Star State. Just like that, Jiang Yanin once again received everyone's reverent gazes. He stood in the middle of the crowd with his hands clasped behind his back and a warm smile on his face. A light breeze blew over from an unknown source, causing his snow-like hair to flutter in the wind. He appeared graceful and ethereal. This sparring of sword intent would eventually become a legend in the Purple Star State, the birth of a new generation sword immortal, Enlin. The #1 sword immortal, Jiang Yanin, was like a spring breeze in rain. Just like that, Enlin was invited off the stage by Jiang Yanin. Although Jiang Yanin's heart was bleeding, he still had to continue teaching. Thus, he continued to lecture on the techniques of sword intent and how to use it. Instruct Enlin on the spot? If Enlin was an ordinary spirit-nurturing cultivator, he might have done so. But now, he really didn't have the face to do such a thing. Enlin returned to Su Qinyun's side and breathed a sigh of relief. This passerby was really full of twists and turns. He went too far and broke the intent realm crystal. He thought that he would have to pay spirit stones. Thankfully, Jiang Yanin was a good person who was understanding. Just this alone gave Enlin a very good impression of him. Classmate Enlin, your swordsmanship has become so powerful. In the future, if I encounter any problems I don't understand in the way of the sword, will I be able to come and ask you? A soft and mellow voice sounded in his ear again, causing his heart to soften and feel comfortable. Enlin looked towards Su Qinyun and saw her breathtakingly beautiful features. There was an expression of reverence on her face as she gazed at him with her vibrant, bright blue eyes. My God, she's so beautiful and adorable. Enlin blushed and averted his gaze. He scratched his head sheepishly. Hee, of course you can come and ask me. Classmates should help each other. It had to be said, the feeling of being worshipped as a sword immortal was really exhilarating. He was very glad that his swordsmanship had reached a certain level. Fortunately, the system's moves weren't like the 6 bricks of the war god. Otherwise, the feeling of exhilaration would definitely be much lower. For example, a conversation with Su Qinyun might very well become, Classmate Enlin, your brick is really powerful. In the future, if I want to carry bricks, can I come and ask you how to smash the back of someone's head with a brick? Listen, this feeling of exhilaration and pretentiousness had instantly dropped by several levels. Just as he was feeling a bit bashful and smug at the same time, Su Xian also walked over. Mr. Enlin is truly a dragon among men. Your profound attainments in the Tao of the Sword are truly admirable. You flatter me, fellow Su Xian. You flatter me. Enlin waved his hand in embarrassment. At this moment, a voice sounded in his mind. Fellow cultivator Enlin, I have something to discuss with you in private. This voice was transmitted to his mind by Su Xian's secret sound transmission. Hearing this, Enlin felt a little uneasy. He didn't understand what was so secretive about, but he still nodded and replied with secret sound transmission. Fellow cultivator Su Xian, please speak. Fellow cultivator Enlin, Are you close to Yinlu? From what I remember, she almost never interacted with other unfamiliar men, and she would never personally bring them into the palace. Su Xian's indifferent voice sounded again. Hearing this, Lin's heart trembled. Could it be that Su Xian specifically came to warn him? Or could it be that this was an Azura field from her brother's interrogation? His thoughts quickly turned, but he didn't deny it. Instead, he continued to transmit his voice and honestly replied, "Yes, she and I could be considered relatively good friends." Su Xian's voice sounded again. "Then do you want to pursue her?" Hearing this, Lin's body trembled. F*CK. Such a direct question. Can't you be more tactful? Of course, he honestly replied, "I don't want to. We are just ordinary friends." A Siscon was a terrifying existence. If he answered, "I want to pursue her," Lin felt that he wouldn't be able to walk out of the Greenwood Palace. Perhaps he would become a pile of spring mud that nourished all living things. Why don't you reconsider? In terms of appearance, Yinlu is unparalleled. In terms of talent, she has even received the approval of a true god. Moreover, she is so pure and kind. Where can I find such a good girl? Su Xian's voice sounded again. "Yes, don't worry, I won't pursue her. Wait." Halfway through his sentence, Lin's pupil shrank. He rubbed his ears and stared at Su Xian in a daze. Did I hear wrong? Why do I feel like something is wrong? Fellow cultivator Su Xian, you mean? You want me to pursue your sister? Lin's breathing quickened, and he asked with uncertainty. Su Xian smiled lightly. "Yes, do you want to pursue her or not? If you do, I can help you. Even take the initiative to help." Hearing this, Lin's body swayed. "Awesome, my brother." Pui. Awesome, Su Qinyan's brother. Chapter 176. These shocking words reverberated in Lin's ears. He was stunned for a full 10 seconds. Then, he carefully sized up the man in front of him. His appearance was a little similar to Su Qinyan's, so he should be her biological brother. Then, here came a question. Have you ever seen a biological brother help someone else chase after his sister? This sister of his wasn't some dinosaur. Instead, she was a perfect woman who didn't need to worry about marriage. So, was this a distortion of human nature or a loss of morals? Lin sorted out his F***ket-up thoughts and transmitted his voice to Su Xian in a serious manner. "Mr. Su Xian, you're joking, right?" Su Xian, sigh. "Now that things have come to this, I won't hide it anymore." Su Xian sighed. "You know Chang'e, right?" Lin nodded solemnly. "I suspect. Chang. He has led Yun Li's sexual orientation astray. So, I urgently need someone to help Yun Lu establish the correct outlook on life and love," Su Xian said slowly as he looked at Lin with anticipation in his eyes. Lin was momentarily dazed upon hearing this. Then he fell in a deep thought. It had to be said, Lin had actually noticed this problem a long time ago. However, he didn't take it to heart. Or rather, he didn't dare to take it to heart. Who was Chang'e? She was the #1 beauty in the celestial court. Forget about that. Who was Chang'e? She was the Moon Palace Lord, a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the return to Void stage. Her status in the celestial court was second only to the 6 emperors. She was an existence that Lin couldn't afford to offend. What could Lin think? He didn't dare to interfere in this matter at all. Lin didn't even dare to share with Su Qinyan the common knowledge that kissing wouldn't lead to pregnancy. But now, he wanted Lin to steal Chang'e's beloved Su Qinyan. Being alive was obviously very good. Why did he have to take things too hard? Seeing Lin's hesitant expression, Su Xian thought that he was feeling inferior and immediately encouraged him. "Student Lin, you've reached the spirit-nurturing stage at such a young age, and your mastery of the Sword Dao is unparalleled in the entire state. Only a man with such extraordinary talent is worthy of Yunlu, so I'm very supportive of your relationship." Su Xian's praise made Lin very happy, but happiness couldn't be eaten. He still wanted to live well, so he righteously rejected Su Xian's good intentions. Lin's expression was solemn, but Su Xian's expression was one of disappointment as he let out a heavy sigh. "Second brother, what did you say to Lin?" Su Qinyan had long since noticed Su Xian and Lin's expressions. She knew that they were communicating telepathically, so she asked curiously. And Lin looked at her beautiful face. Her face was so tender that he couldn't help but want to pinch it, as well as her dreamy eyes. He had to admit that she was really moving. However, his life was still the most important thing. As for the phrase that people often said, "You'll make a fortune in 3 years, and you won't lose out on a death sentence." If you really were to be sentenced to death, let's see if you'd make a loss or not. This was already the third time that Lin had reminded himself like this. He couldn't lose his sense of propriety. He turned his gaze towards Jiang Yanin again. As for the explanation, it was better to leave it to his good brother, Su Xian. Jiang Yanin's method of training sword intent, as well as techniques for how to use sword intent to increase the power of sword techniques, had a lot to learn. At the very least, Lin benefited greatly from listening to his teachings. After the lesson, Lin and Su Qinyan left the drill grounds. There were still 4 days until the mechanical puppet's energy source was delivered, so Lin had been fooling around in the Imperial Palace. During these 4 days, Su Xian went to look for Lin a few times, asking if Lin wanted to pursue his sister. "Pursue your sister? No way." This was Lin's reply. "Not pursuing? Oh, then I'll come ask again later." Su Xian wasn't discouraged. The next day, "Have you thought it through? Do you want to pursue my sister? I can help you." Su Xian had an expectant expression. "I've thought it through. No way." And Lin was very determined. Su Xian. On the third day, Su Xian came again. "Su Xian, are you going to pursue her?" And Lin, "Even if Liang Jingru gave me the courage, I still wouldn't have the guts to pursue her." Su Xian was dumbfounded. "What did you say?" And Lin, "No way." Su Xian. On the 4th day, it was time to pick up the goods. And Lin and Su Qinyan held Dabai and Xiaomon's hands as they walked excitedly toward the research lab. Once the door opened, colorful lights began to shine in all directions. Professor Yang was dressed in a white robe and stood in the middle of the research room in a refined manner. He bowed to the princess and said in a calm but excited tone, "Welcome, all of you. It's time for us to witness a miracle." As he spoke, he lifted the white cloth, and a silver-colored mechanical puppet appeared in Lin's field of vision. It stood upright on the ground, and in the center of its structure, its energy source exuded a faint golden glow. A pulsating aura of life spread in all directions, making it one with nature. It was like a living being, full of vitality and rhythm. "Perfect." And Lin stared intently at the mechanical puppet in front of him and couldn't help but praise it. This mechanical puppet had completed a type of transformation. It had transformed from an inanimate object into a spirit object. Their bloodline connection allowed him to give orders to this mechanical puppet. This was a sign that the spirit net had been successfully activated. "Punch," and Lin ordered. The Gundam received the order and immediately began to swing its fists. Its movements were agile, and its punches were fierce. Its punches weren't messy and chaotic. Instead, they were very intricate and profound fist techniques. This might be because the mechanical puppet's internal system already had a set of related fist techniques stored in it. "Dance!" And Lin continued with a smile. Upon hearing the order, the Gundam's entire body began to tremble, and a high-pitched song was played. Immediately afterward, the mechanical parts and joints of its body began to move to the beat of the music. This could be said to be a perfect mechanical dance. Its movements were handsome and cool, and it was full of a mechanical feeling. And Lin's heart rate accelerated as he watched. Perfect, it was too perfect. Even Professor Yang and Su Qinyan were staring intently at the Gundam's dance. They felt that it was both novel and shocking. After the dance, Lin held the metallic Gundam tightly in his arms. "Your name is Gundam 1 from now on," he exclaimed excitedly. The mechanical puppet nodded, but it didn't seem to understand. Professor Yang's chest tightened. He was extremely pained to give such a perfect piece of art such a casual name. Professor Yang handed the other core to Lin, and Lin excitedly installed the core onto the other mechanical puppet. That mechanical puppet was also activated. "From now on, your name is Gundam 2. He gave a name that Professor Yang couldn't bear to look at. What a waste, what a waste, Professor Yang lamented. And Lin's naming was like Da Vinci naming his painting Mona Lisa, Flower Maiden, after much difficulty. This was simply a waste of a work of art, and Lin was completely oblivious to this. He placed Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 into his storage ring with a satisfied expression and expressed his gratitude to Professor Yang once again. If this mechanical puppet is used in battle, it can only be maintained for 2 hours. After the energy within the energy core is depleted, it will require 10,000 spirit stones to be recharged, Professor Yang added. And Lin nodded. This was a small fee that he could afford. Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 would be one of his life-saving trump cards in the future. One more thing. The energy core I created can only activate about 20% of the mechanical puppet's abilities. I will create a more complete energy core for you in the future, Professor Yang continued. And Lin looked at Professor Yang with gratitude. His skills were limited, and he didn't expect to be able to create an energy core that could activate 100% of the mechanical puppet's abilities. In reality, he was already very satisfied that 20% of the mechanical puppet's abilities could be activated. Now, Professor Yang volunteered to help him improve the energy core. He was naturally extremely grateful and overjoyed. Take good care of Daybreak and Daybreak. Professor Yang patted Lin's shoulder. What? Lin was slightly dazed. I'm talking about the names of your 2 mechanical puppets, Professor Yang said in a meaningful and heartfelt voice. He decided to use a gentle and suggestive method to change this young man's mind. Don't give them random names. I think Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 are the best, and Lin said solemnly. Professor Yang. Chapter 177. After exiting the laboratory, Lin and Su Qianyun began to take a leisurely stroll. And Lin was in a good mood after learning that Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 had been reborn. He hummed a tune as he strode forward. Even the sunlight seemed to warm him up a little. Student Lin, are you going to leave this place? Su Qianyun remembered that Lin had told her that he would return to the Celestial Court as soon as the mechanical puppet's energy source was ready. Lin nodded. That's right. There are only a few more days before school starts. There are some things that I need to prepare in advance. The main reason was that Su Xian's relentless pursuit was a little too much for him to handle. Otherwise, Lin wouldn't be willing to leave so early if he could eat and play in the Imperial Palace like a vacation paradise. Then, he bumped into a handsome man on the road. What a coincidence, Mr. Lin. Su Xian waved at him with a smile. Lin's lips twitched. Why didn't Su Xian greet Su Qianyun first? Why did he greet him first? An ominous premonition suddenly welled up in his heart. I heard that you're going back to school. I didn't prepare anything, so I'll give you a small gift. Su Xian handed a wooden box to Lin as he spoke. Wow, second brother actually gave a gift to student Lin. Su Qianyun covered her mouth in surprise, as if she had seen something incredible. Lin was a little uneasy, but he couldn't just reject a gift from someone else. With this in mind, he could only grit his teeth and accept the wooden box while expressing his gratitude. Su Xian patted Lin's shoulder with an encouraging look in his eyes. Lin, he had a feeling that whatever was inside the wooden box was definitely not something good. If he had a choice, he really didn't want to accept this gift. Lin rode onto Bai's back and flew into the sky after bidding farewell to Su Qianyun and Su Xian. High up in the sky, Lin took out a wooden box from his storage ring as he watched the green wood Imperial Palace gradually disappear into the distance. He looked at this thing that was like Pandora's box and fell into silence. Why not just throw it away? A thought flashed through his mind. No, what if it was something important? In the end, curiosity overcame reason. He slowly opened the wooden box. What caught his eye was a letter that exuded a faint fragrance. Love letter? Lin slowly unfolded the letter, and the first sentence appeared in front of him. Lin's brother-in-law. I believe you will be very surprised when you read this letter. As soon as he read the first sentence, his hand trembled, and he almost dropped the letter. Su Xian was right, and Lin was very surprised when he received the letter. After reading the content, he was horrified. And Lin's brother-in-law, go to hell with your sister. As expected, it was better to throw the wooden box away. And Lin raised the wooden box. After a while, he slowly put it down. Before throwing it away, let's see what he said first. His reason was once again defeated by curiosity. He slowly unfolded the letter and continued to read. I'll call you brother-in-law. Please don't be surprised. There was no surprise, only horror. After all, you're the man who is closest to Yunlu, and you have the best chance of defeating Chang'e. Perhaps in the future, you really might become my brother-in-law. This sentence about defeating Chang'e, it was even more horrifying than the previous sentence. I feel that in Lin. Even if you don't want to pursue Yunlu now, you will definitely be moved in the future. After all, Yunlu is such a perfect woman, isn't she? This has nothing to do with perfection. After adding the perfect halo, the next part should be the main topic. And Lin's guess was correct. The next part was indeed the main topic. When you want to pursue Yunlu, she will already be far away in the celestial court. As your brother-in-law, I can't help you even if I wanted to. So, I specially wrote down this information in hopes that it will be of some help to you. Yin Li's birthday is, her favorite animal is, her favorite food is, her favorite thing to do in the morning is, her favorite thing to do in the afternoon is, her favorite thing to do in the evening is, her favorite thing to do in the evening is, her favorite thing to do is to practice swordsmanship. Don't be fooled by her moonlight disc. She is also a woman who dreams of becoming a sword immortal. So, brother-in-law, you have a good chance. She also has some things that she hates, such as an overly noisy environment. Although she's not good with words, she is a person who likes to chat. Brother-in-law can only help you this much. If it still doesn't work, then it proves that you two are not fated to be together, and I won't interfere too much. Finally, I wish you all the best. And Lin silently finished reading the letter and fell into silence again. He had to admit that this brother really worried about his sister's marriage. And Lin's heart was deeply moved. He was a little afraid. He was afraid that he knew too much as he thought of this. His palm began to emit a raging fire, burning the wooden box and the letter into ashes. The physical evidence was gone. However, the information was already in his mind and could not be forgotten. What should he do? Sigh. And Lin shook his head helplessly, his face full of melancholy. Sometimes, it was not a good thing to be too smart. Celestial Court, Shoshin United University's teleportation portal. And Lin's figure gradually appeared amidst a flash of white light. The miniature clown and Dubai appeared together with him. And Lin looked at the familiar surroundings and the rich vital energy around him. He could not help but take a deep breath, and his entire body felt refreshed. He had only been away from a university for less than a month, but he felt like he had been away for a long time. Hey, and Lin, Dubai. A somewhat familiar voice suddenly sounded, and Lin turned around and saw a slightly chubby man with dark skin looking at him with a joyful expression. F***CK. Ludabeo, how did you become so dark? And Lin's eyes widened as he looked at the man in front of him with a shocked expression. In his memory, Ludabeo was a fair-skinned and muscular man. How did he become an African uncle after not seeing him for a while? Sigh, I'm going to cry if I talk about this. Ludabeo massaged his brows with a pained expression. My father forced me to cultivate that divine sun technique, which requires me to bask in the sun for a month. I didn't do anything during this month of vacation. I just lay on the beach every day like a salted fish, turning over every half a day. And Lin burst out laughing upon hearing this. He felt like, after the photosynthesis expert Xiao Hong woke up, he would have many things to talk about with Ludabeo. He then saw Ludabeo's mood suddenly plummet, and he looked like he was about to burst into tears. He immediately apologized. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. It would have been better if he hadn't apologized, but when he did, Ludabeo's face darkened, even though his face was already dark. Ludabeo heaved a forlorn sigh before turning to Enlin. What about you? What did you do during your vacation? Enlin thought for a moment before replying honestly, that's a bit much. I went to the mythological beast sect first, then to the vermilion bird sect, then to the abyss of evil to kill sinister devils. After that, I went to the 10,000 Spirits Immortal sect to find Xianyuan Cheng, and I even encountered the high priestess of the holy glacial lands trying to steal my man. Finally, I went to the Greenwood Imperial Palace. Liu Debao, and Lin noticed that Liu Debao's expression was a little off, and he asked with concern, "Huh? What's wrong?" Liu Debao clasped a hand over his chest and shook his head. "It's nothing. I just feel a little uncomfortable. Just leave me alone." He waved a hand to indicate that he didn't need to worry too much, and Lin nodded as a yearning expression appeared on his face. A new year was about to arrive. He was going to cultivate hard and improve every day during this year. Chapter 178. The new school year arrived, and Lin's school was moved to a place called the White Wing School District. This was a school district for second-year students. The new batch of male idols streamed through the school gates, all of them brimming with youthfulness. The day before the official start of the school year, and Lin returned to the school gates, feeling a bit melancholic. Before he knew it, a year had passed. When he first came here, he was still a mortal who knew nothing. Outside the gates, he met the first cultivator friend of his life, Su Xiaolan. He couldn't help but chuckle when he thought of how the two of them were completely at odds with each other. One of them spoke Mandarin, while the other spoke the strange Tai Chu language. He continued forward and arrived at a small plaza. This place wasn't big, but it was crowded with thousands of students. A huge black stone slab stood in the middle of the crowd, emitting a white light from time to time. This was a stone used to measure cultivation base. Thinking back, the famous title of most backdoor entrant was obtained from this very place. And Lin smiled faintly. He was already a cultivator of the spirit nurturing stage now. Although his skill tree was a bit skewed and he only condensed a beast core, he had at least made a comeback. What a pity no one stepped out to trample on him back then. Otherwise, he would be able to slap them in the face right now. The black stone slab emitted a dazzling white light, and a huge number of words appeared. Dao Body, 10th stage. A commotion broke out among the crowd, and all kinds of comments appeared. Wow, so impressive. Wow, what a genius. And so on. Yao Xiao, Class 1. A deep and resonant voice sounded. Oh yeah. A girl in a green dress cheered happily. She knew that she could definitely enter Class 1, but she still couldn't control her emotions and expressed her joy wantonly in a joyful manner. This girl's skin was fair and delicate, and she had shoulder-length ponytails, giving her a youthful and energetic appearance. To be honest, it was extremely rare for female cultivators to have ponytails, so Lin took a few more glances at her. Right at this moment, the black stone slab emitted another dazzling white light. Then, the entire crowd erupted, causing a huge commotion. This was because the words on the stone slab were Spirit Nurturing Stage, Initial Stage. Yao Mingxi, Class 1. The voice rang out again. So he is the black and white sword sect's #1 genius, Yao Mingxi. Yao Xiao and Yao Mingxi are siblings, right? Their aptitude is too monstrous. It must be inherited. They have long been famous in the spirit sword state. They are all geniuses who can communicate with the ancient sword steel. We're in the final stages of the examination. I thought that we wouldn't even have a single spirit nurturing stage cultivator in this cohort. Thankfully, we have Yao Mingxi. Yao Mingxi is so handsome. Some fangirls couldn't help but start cheering loudly. Yao Mingxi was dressed in a black robe. He had a handsome appearance and a cold expression, making him seem unapproachable. He calmly left the crowd. Yao Xiao quickly ran over, giggling as she held onto his arm. She said in a sweet voice, "You're really worthy of being my blood brother. You're definitely the #1 of this year's freshman." Yao Mingxi smiled warmly. However, his eyes were looking into the distance. "Little Xiao, we shouldn't just focus on this cohort of freshmen. We should set our sights on the entire university." Yao Xiao's bright eyes flashed with excitement. Brother's right. The #1 on the Immortal Rankings board, Wang Xuanzhan, has reached the soul formation stage in his 5th year. This kind of unparalleled talent is what we should strive for. Yao Mingxi smiled lightly. Wang Xuanzhan is indeed very powerful. However, did you know that there is a legendary figure in the university? You've only just arrived, so you haven't heard of him. He's the person I admire. Yao Xiu's small mouth gaped slightly. Who is it? Apart from Wang Xuanzhan, there didn't seem to be anyone else in the university who was of this rank. She was really curious as to who it was that made the arrogant Yao Mingxi admire him. Let me tell you about him. Yao Mingxi's eyes burned with passion. A rare expression of yearning appeared on his cold face. My idol. He was only of the Zeroth stage Dao body when he first entered the university. Yao Xiu was dazed upon hearing this. Her large, lively eyes blinked. In a short span of a year, guess what rank he's reached now? Yao Mingxi asked. Yao Xiu's small, delicate face recovered slightly from her shock. She started guessing the most impressive rank she could think of. 10th stage Dao body. Yao Mingxi shook his head. He's of the spirit-nurturing stage. Spirit-nurturing stage? Yao Xiu could no longer remain calm. Her small chest rose and fell violently. In a short span of a year, he cultivated from a Zeroth stage Dao body to the spirit-nurturing stage. Compared to this, had she, the self-proclaimed prodigy of the spirit sword state, lived the past 18 years like a dog. But this is only one of his many feats. Do you know that during the free-for-all battle, he was only at the Dao body stage, but he defeated Wang Xuanzhan, who was ranked first on the immortal rankings board, with a single finger? Yao Mingxi continued. He defeated Wang Xuanzhan with a single finger? Yao Xiu stammered, her face full of disbelief. Not only that, but when he descended into the mortal world to carry out a mission, the Dark Knight monarch of the Dark-Winged tribe suddenly descended and was slain by him with a single sword strike. Yao Mingxi became more and more excited as he spoke. Those who can be referred to as monarchs in the Dark-Winged tribe are all supreme beings of the return to void stage. Heavens! Yao Xiu was so shocked that her body trembled. She was actually a little dazed. If it wasn't for the fact that this big brother of hers, who never joked, she definitely wouldn't believe it. Sure, tell me, isn't this senior a living legend? Is he worthy of worship? Yao Mingxi's eyes burned with passion and his breathing quickened. Yao Xiu could no longer suppress her feelings of worship. Big brother, who is he? Yao Mingxi, his name is Enlin. He's a second-year senior. Yao Xiu was excited. Senior Enlin, is it? Let's go find him today. Let's go make friends. Yao Mingxi nodded. I think so too, but we can't be too presumptuous. We have to give Senior a good first impression. How about the two of us perform a sword dance for him? Yao Xiu suggested after thinking for a moment. The problem is, does he like sword dances? Little Xiu, your singing is very good. How about you sing a song for him, and I perform the sword dance? That way, as long as he likes one, we'll be friends. Yao Mingxi suggested. What if he doesn't like either? Yao Xiu was a little concerned. If he doesn't like either, then we'll use force. Yao Mingxi's eyes burned with passion. How do we do that? Yao Xiu's delicate features were flushed with excitement. Yao Mingxi gritted his teeth. Even if we can't become friends, we have to make him remember us. We can ask him what he likes first, then try to cater to his tastes. If he still refuses, then we'll pester him and refuse to leave until he acknowledges us. Yao Xiu's eyes lit up. We also have to ask for his autograph, take a photo with him, and exchange voice transmission talismans. Yes, just like that. Let's go to the White Wing District. Yao Mingxi nodded firmly. Yes, big brother. Yao Xiu was impatient. Just like that, the brother and sister rushed to the White Wing District in high spirits with excitement on their faces. At the spot where they had been standing, Enlin's lips twitched and his expression darkened. He had heard the entire conversation without missing a single word. His mood had also changed from the initial complacency to the current pain in his liver. After a moment of silence, he decided to run in the opposite direction of the two siblings. Chapter 179. Night fell, and Enlin returned to his room after wandering around for the entire day. It's already so late. Tomorrow is the first day of school, so the siblings should have already left. He sighed lightly. Who would have thought that becoming famous would be such a troublesome thing? He opened the door to his room, and it was pitch black inside. Kacha! The room was suddenly illuminated, and two well-dressed people appeared in his field of vision. The man was dressed in a black robe, and he was cool and handsome. The woman was dressed in a green robe, and she was delicate and adorable. Surprise! The two of them yelled in unison. The man pulled out a long sword as he spoke. Senior and Lin, I'm Yao Mingxi from first year class 1, the man said. Hubby, I'm Yao Xiu from first year class 1. The woman's eyes lit up. The man's lips twitched. Show air, be more reserved. The woman stuck out her tongue in a mischievous manner, then stared intently at Lin. And Lin was dumbstruck. What the F***CK? These two ran into his room and squatted there? That was way too terrifying. Please enjoy the performance we've meticulously prepared for you, the two of them said in unison. A great river, wide waves, the wind blows through the paddy fields, the fragrance of the two banks. My home is here. Yao Xiu's crisp and sweet voice sounded. Yao Mingxi also began to perform a sword dance. As the sword danced, vital energy flowed along with the rhythm like waves. It was both beautiful and artistic. And Lin's mouth gaped open as he stared blankly at the two lunatics singing and dancing in his room. After a few minutes, the two of them looked at Lin with anticipation in their eyes. Senior and Lin, did you like the performance we prepared for you? Yao Mingxi asked nervously as he looked at Lin. In order to let you experience the warmth of home, Xiu even went to learn songs from the mortal world. Yao Xiu stared at Lin with tears in her big, bright eyes, as if she was begging him to praise her. And Lin's face convulsed. In order to let him feel the warmth of home, they sang My Motherland. Awesome. I really enjoyed your performance. It's getting late. Go back and rest. He squeezed out a smile and said to the two of them, Oh, really? Do you really like it? Yao Xiu stared at Lin. Her breathing quickened as she approached him, and Lin retreated step by step, goosebumps rising all over his body. As long as Senior likes it, us siblings will come here every day to sing and dance for you. Yao Mingxi followed Yao Xiu's lead and approached Lin, staring at him with passionate eyes. There's no need to go through so much trouble. I'm already very satisfied. And Lin immediately refused. It's no trouble at all, the two of them said in unison with excited expressions. And Lin roared in his heart, You guys aren't troublesome, but I am. Senior and Lin, can you give us your autograph? All right. And Lin signed their names on the hilts of their swords. This was something that a sword cultivator valued the most. It had to be said that these two siblings had really become his die-hard fans. Senior and Lin, this is my voice transmission talisman. Can you leave me your contact number? All right. And Lin left an imprint on their voice transmission talisman. He was going all out in order to get rid of these two crazy fans. Senior and Lin, can we move into your room? All right. F***CK off. F***CK off. This is getting more and more outrageous. In a fit of rage, and Lin let Dabai out and chased him out. Senior and Lin, we'll be back. Yao Mingxi yelled as he ran. Love you, Senior. See you tomorrow. Yao Xiu yelled. And Lin, at this moment, the window of the neighboring attic opened. The girl looked to the side and saw Lin standing at the door with a dark expression on his face. She smiled sweetly and teased. Congratulations, Lin. You've gained 2 cute fans. And Lin turned around and looked at Su Xiaolan, who was cupping her cheeks and smiling adorably. He sighed. Don't make fun of me. If fans can transfer gifts, I'll send them away, even if I have to pay for them. To be honest, he had been tormented by these two die-hard fans. They were afraid that they would suddenly jump out and sing and dance at him. In order to prevent this from happening, he set up an alarm spell formation around the house. The alarm would sound the moment a stranger stepped foot on the house. After making sure everything was in place, he closed his eyes and went to sleep. However, right after he closed his eyes, his voice transmission talisman suddenly trembled and emitted a faint light. And Lin was puzzled. He picked up the voice transmission talisman. Hello, who is it? A gentle voice came from the voice transmission talisman. Senior, it's me, Xiu. And Lin blinked. What's up? Yao Xiu, are you asleep? And Lin, what do you think? Yao Xiu, oh, good night then. And Lin's mouth twitched, and he silently hung up. He didn't expect that he would be tricked one day. Speaking of which, This voice transmission talisman didn't have a function to turn off the phone or reject calls. Sure enough, the phone was the best. He fell asleep again in a sullen mood. The moon set and the sun rose. The next morning, Lin woke up. Once again, he entered the familiar classroom. There were familiar teachers and familiar classmates. The curriculum was a little different from that of his first year. There were still public lessons in the morning and specialized courses in the afternoon. The specialized courses were divided into 6 categories: pill refinement, weapon refinement, array formations, magic treasure techniques, immortal spells, and divine soul. The students would choose the category they liked based on their interests and specialized in it. Lin hesitated for a long time. Pill refinement and tool refinement were not attractive to him at all. In any case, he had so much money. He could buy immortal pills if he wanted to eat them, and he already had 1 or 2 immortal tools. He didn't lack these 2 things, and unlike a certain Xiao Huahua, he could use pill refinement to show off. Thus, he didn't need to worry about these 2 major subjects. As for array formations, they were far too complicated, and it would take too much time and effort to master them. Furthermore, setting up formations was troublesome, and he had the divine inspection technique to break them. There was no need to panic, so he wasn't in a hurry. As for magic treasure techniques, after observing the 6 strikes of the war god, Lin's grasp of swordsmanship and sword intent was already very strong. There was no room for improvement, so he didn't need to consider this. The Immortal Spells class was to learn how to use immortal spells efficiently, as well as some practical immortal spells. There was also a class to guide students on how to create their own immortal spells. It sounded very good, but Lin was already a sword immortal. No matter how many immortal spells he had, he would be able to break them with a single sword strike. He was already focusing on the sword, so what was the point of playing with immortal spells? Wasn't that just tormenting himself? The last class was the Divine Soul class. It talked about the use of one's divine sense, the strengthening of one's divine sense, and the use of one's divine sense to capture the enemy's movements. It seemed like the divine inspection technique could do this as well, and Lin stroked his chin and frowned slightly. He was hesitant. He discovered a very serious problem. That's right, he felt so powerful now. He felt like he didn't need to learn anything. Chapter 180. After thinking about it, Lin finally decided to let the heavens decide his specialization. He took out a die. 1 was for pill refinement, 2 were for tool refinement, 3 were for spell formations, 4 for magic treasure techniques, 5 were for immortal spells, and 6 were for consciousness. He tossed the die into the air, dropped it, and rolled until it was 5 points up. If this is the will of the heavens, then I'll choose immortal spells. Coincidentally, Su Xiaolan had also chosen an immortal spell class. However, she played with fire anyway, so there was nothing wrong with choosing immortal spells. There were 100 students in their class, and 26 of them chose immortal spells. It seemed like this class was quite popular, and the teacher in charge of teaching them immortal spells was the white-haired Dioscoria Cancongensis. Back then, Lin had suffered a lot because of the Tsongqing brand sleeping pills. Now, he had turned things around and was able to listen to the class with his classmates with great interest. He could also laugh with everyone when they listed the funny points. This was all blood and tears of hard work. Only Lin, as the person involved, could deeply understand the bitterness. On an open hillside, this became the teaching location for immortal spells. Many students sat in a circle around the room. Earth Immortal Tsongqing stood in the center and lectured enthusiastically on the theory of immortal spells. Low-level immortal spells have form, while high-level immortal spells have form and intent. The intent within is the intent. By fusing the intent into the immortal spell, it can give the immortal spell spirituality and growth potential. Lin listened to Dioscoria Cancongensis and began his practical practice. He was still a long way off from creating a powerful immortal technique. However, if he wanted to modify an immortal technique, he could still give it a try. The immortal spells he was more familiar with were the Mountain Quaking Fist and the Lightning Manipulation technique. As for the 6 strikes of the war god, it was already quite perfect and contained true intent, so he didn't even need to think about improving it. Should he guide the lightning to the mountain quaking fist and use the lightning mountain quaking fist? And Lin's eyes lit up, and he did as he said. After Tsongqing's lecture, it was time for free practice. He found an empty space and started to modify the celestial technique according to the method taught by his teacher. The mountain quaking fist was an elementary rank god of war technique, and because it was complemented by the power of the earth from the Earth Lotus Supreme skill, its power was greatly boosted, and it could be activated instantly. Meanwhile, the lightning manipulation technique was an immortal spell derived from the thunder essence cultivation method. It drew upon lightning from a void, and it required around 10 seconds to completely charge up. In other words, to release a mountain quaking lightning fist, he would need to charge for at least 10 seconds. Let's test the firepower first. And Lin's left hand's fingertips flashed with lightning as he clenched his right hand into a fist. Golden light enveloped his fist, emitting powerful fluctuations. The next step was to guide the lightning to his fist. During this process, it was necessary to control the ratio of energy, otherwise it would explode due to the imbalance of energy. Crackle, crackle. The blue lightning in the air crackled and slowly adhered to his fist. He could feel the collision and fusion of two different types of energy, and he was extremely excited. After the thunder and lightning mixed with the earth power of the mountain quaking fist, it turned into golden lightning. So handsome. And Lin's breathing quickened. He was stunned by the golden lightning on his fist. After absorbing the divine lightning from the lightning manipulation technique, the power contained in his fist became extremely terrifying. However, the power was also on the verge of exploding, and it was time to strike. Watch me, mountain quaking lightning fist. And Lin yelled and smashed his fist forward. Boom! A terrifying power completely erupted. Lightning and golden light combined and exploded, engulfing everything in its surroundings. A terrifying area of golden lightning spread out like a ball, blasting everything within a 5-zhang radius into smithereens and charred them black. And Lin, who bore the brunt of the explosion, spat out blood as he was sent flying. His right arm turned crimson red, as if it was about to split open. Ah! Ow, ow! He rolled on the ground, grimacing in pain. And Lin, your immortal spell is so powerful. If an enemy of the spirit nurturing stage were to take a direct hit from you, they would definitely be reduced to ashes. Su Xiaolan came over upon hearing the commotion and looked at Lin, who was rolling on the ground. As expected of Big Brother, you've created such a terrifying immortal art yourself. Luo Zipping ran over with a jolt, and he spoke with an expression of admiration. And Lin grimaced, but he didn't reply. Instead, he sat up and looked at his slightly cracked arm with lingering fear. So it turned out that he had invented a technique that dealt 1,000 damage to the enemy and 800 damage to himself. No, if he crippled an arm every time he used it, he definitely wouldn't admit that this was an immortal spell. There should be some areas that could be improved upon. In terms of energy coordination, he felt that it was already very well coordinated. The power of the combined immortal spell had also been greatly enhanced. If he really had to point out something, it would be the intent realm. Intent realm? That's right. I can integrate an intent realm into the immortal spell to make it more stable. And Lin's eyes lit up, and he immediately started thinking about what intent realm he should integrate to make the immortal spell more stable. An intent realm that could simultaneously incorporate the mountain quaking fist, which contained the power of earth, and the lightning manipulation technique, which contained the power of lightning. For some reason, he thought of the Dark Knight Monarch's darkness of origin. At that time, he was in a strange state of understanding. When facing the Dark Knight Monarch's most powerful technique, it could be said that he had seen through the intent realm of the technique with a single glance. The Darkness of Origin was an immortal spell that could annihilate all things and encompass all things at the same time. Combining the two characteristics of annihilation and encompassing all things, perhaps it could make the mountain quaking lightning fist more powerful while stabilizing it. Stay away from me. I'm going to try something else, and Lin said nervously. Luo Zipping had an excited expression. Big brother, and is going to create another immortal spell? This is a feast for our eyes. Hearing this, Su Xiaolan retreated a few steps worriedly and didn't say anything. In reality, combining two immortal spells and incorporating a new intent realm was already beyond the scope of improving an immortal spell. Perhaps it was just as Luo Zipping had said. This was already an attempt to create an immortal spell. Enlin guided the lightning with his left hand, and a golden light erupted from his right fist again. When the lightning latched onto his fist, it underwent another qualitative change, and the energy within it also began to reach the brink of explosion. His eyes focused. It was time to integrate the intent realm. The scene of the sky transforming into boundless darkness and crashing toward the earth surfaced in his mind, and the true intent of the technique began to merge with his fist. The violent golden lightning was tinged with a hint of black, and it gradually quieted down. However, the power imbued within it also became even more suffocating. Even Enlin himself felt a chill run down his spine, and he felt as if his fist had latched onto a ticking time bomb. No, I have to get out of here. Mountain quaking lightning fist. He was just about to unleash his fist when the air around him suddenly became sluggish, and the lightning and golden light actually began to recede slightly. Enlin's pupils contracted, and he immediately launched his fist forward. He had to make it in time. The golden fist was entwined with golden lightning, and black wisps of energy flowed within the fist, bringing with them two contradictory powers of annihilation and violence. They were like thin threads that pulled at the fist, causing it to shrink strangely. Heaven and earth instantly fell silent. Boom! A deafening explosion shook the heavens. The energy exploded 3 feet away from Enlin. The earth quaked, and the golden light shattered the ground. The lightning swept through the surroundings with an aura of annihilation, annihilating everything it came into contact with. Nearby, Dioscorea Cancongensis and all the students looked toward a certain spot on the hillside, and they all drew in a sharp breath. A small mushroom cloud of lightning rose up from the ground, and a powerful shockwave carried dust and smoke into the surroundings. As for the culprit, Enlin, his figure had already been submerged in the mushroom cloud. Chapter 181. Enlin had successfully created his own immortal spell, and he named it the Nuclear Lightning Fist. This immortal spell was extremely powerful, but side effects were also very obvious. If he didn't use it well, he would die. Thanks to the Nuclear Lightning Fist, he was bedridden for half a month. If he hadn't cultivated the evergreen technique, perhaps he would be lying on a bed filled with flowers right now. The mushroom cloud at the time was extremely powerful, and it left a very deep impression on the students. They all paid their utmost respect to Enlin, who had risked his life to create the immortal spell. Enlin's self-created immortal spell was also successfully recorded in Dioscorea Cancongensis' classic negative teaching material. It was widely sung in the Celestial Court. Enlin had learned of these glorious feats from Su Xiaolan. Su Xiaolan hadn't gone far at the time, and she was also injured by the Nuclear Lightning Fist. After that, she took a picture of the charred Enlin with her camera. She even printed it out and placed it on Enlin's bedside for him to admire. The message she wanted to convey was self-evident. After Enlin woke up, he would fall into deep thought every time he looked at the picture of the charred black man. He felt that if he had thrown the punch earlier, he wouldn't have been injured by the explosion. However, after seeing the picture, he didn't dare to make a second attempt. During this half a month of rest, apart from some friends visiting him, Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiu would sing and dance in his room. Finally, on a sunny afternoon, he walked out of the treatment center with tears in his eyes. Phew, I'm alive again. Enlin opened his arms and embraced the sun. Congratulations, master. You can continue to court death now. A sweet voice sounded from his pocket. Enlin's lips twitched upon hearing this, and he lowered his head in embarrassment. After a period of photosynthesis, Little Hong had already woken up. When he used the Nuclear Lightning Fist, he forgot to take Little Red away. Thus, she successfully became a character who went through thick and thin with her master and was baptized by the cannon fire. Little Red's resentment towards her master couldn't be explained in a few words. Faced with Little Red's mockery, Lin didn't dare to reply. He was afraid that Little Red would suddenly explode and destroy him in the name of the sun. At the same time, in a conference room of the school, Vice Principal Yuhua, who had thick eyebrows and big eyes, was sitting at a round table. 6 other university executives were also participating in this meeting with him. During the Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers, what do you think about the student representatives of the Celestial Court that were voted on by the university? Yuhua asked. Humph, what a joke. And Lin is only of the spirit-nurturing initial stage, yet he was elected with the highest number of votes. Isn't this a disgrace to our Celestial Court? Zhu Zhengji of the Immortal Spell Department humphed coldly and spoke with dissatisfaction. I feel that student Lin is fully deserving of this position. Have you all forgotten what he has done in the past year? No student in the Celestial Court is as outstanding as he is, Liu Yang of the Spell Formation Department said with a smile. He had high hopes for Lin, but everyone knows that his power isn't something that he can control as he pleases. Strictly speaking, he is still of the spirit-nurturing initial stage. I'm afraid it's still a little inappropriate to have him become the head student representative. Nangong Qi of the Magic Treasure Department furrowed his brows slightly and continued. There are 3 student representatives in the Celestial Court. We can have Wang Xuanzhan as the head student representative and Lin and Lu Qianhuan as normal representatives. This arrangement isn't against the rules, and it's also more reasonable. Hearing this, the other 3 higher-ups also nodded slightly, clearly agreeing with Nangong Qi's suggestion. Just like that, the student representatives of the Celestial Court for the Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers were officially decided. The 3 representatives were Wang Xuanzhan, and Lin, and Lu Qianhuan. And Lin returned to the school in high spirits, and soon received this piece of good news. He was a little dumbfounded. Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers? 3 student representatives? Representing the school for the conference? Hearing Lin's rapid-fire questions, Su Xiaolan couldn't help but burst into laughter. Please, if it's just a conference, is there a need to hold a school-wide vote? Then what is this Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers? Lin was inexplicably elected as the student representative with the highest number of votes. Apparently, he had voted for him while he was recuperating from his illness. This kind of election made him extremely uneasy. Perhaps it was because of his fame. In any case, it couldn't be a good thing no matter how he thought about it. Su Xiaolan replied, The Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers is a conference jointly held by the Celestial Court of the Kingdom of the Nine States, the Buddhist Kingdom of the Western Paradise, the Garden of Eden of the Holy Region, and the Hall of Creation of the Creation Realm. It's held once every 5 years, and the representatives of the younger generation of the Four Powers participate in the conference to showcase the brilliance of the younger generation of the Four Powers. There are also a variety of tests to be held. Hearing Su Xiaolan's explanation, Lin buried his face in his hands. He suddenly wanted to return to his hospital room and become a salted fish. F***CK. There were other students of the spirit-nurturing final stage in the school apart from Lu Qianhuan, right? Why did they have to choose him? The other 3 powers were about the same level as the Celestial Court, so it wasn't hard to imagine that the cultivation bases of their representatives wouldn't be lower than spirit-nurturing final stage. Playing with these freaks, Lin felt like he had a chance of winning in terms of looks. However, in terms of other aspects, he was really only suitable to be a bystander. Can I refuse? Lin was a little tired. We've already announced it to the entire school. What do you think? There was a smile on Su Xiaolan's face. Seeing Lin's expression, she was inexplicably amused. Lin sat down on the ground dejectedly, his expression filled with despair. All right. Seeing Lin's dejected expression, Su Xiaolan couldn't bear to see him like this again. Don't you still have Wang Xuanzhan and Lu Qianhuan to rely on? Don't be so pessimistic. Them. Lin's face convulsed. Wang Xuanzhan was provoked by me once during the free-for-all battle. Will he really rely on me? As for Lu Qianhuan, I feel like she's even more unreliable than I am. The more Lin thought about it, the more pessimistic he became. He could already foresee the exchange conference. One of them would be a lazy bum, one would be playing with his phone, and the other would be leading his two useless teammates to fight bravely. Sigh, it must be very embarrassing. And Lin, I heard you've recovered. A delicate cry sounded from afar, and Lin looked up to see an extremely beautiful woman running toward him. Her pink and white sailor outfit fluttered in the wind. Beneath her shoulder-length pink hair was a pair of purple eyes that were as bright as jewels. She held a phone in her small, fair hand as she waved excitedly at Lin. Lin, Sister Lu, what's the matter? Lin braced himself and asked after Lu Qianhuan arrived in front of him. I'm here to do post-illness rehabilitation training with you. Lu Qianhuan replied in a straightforward manner. What kind of training? Lin looked at the phone in her hand, and a sense of unease welled up in his heart. Sure enough, Lu Qianhuan raised her phone and waved it around. If you sleep in the hospital room for too long, your brain and body won't be as nimble. Playing games with me can help your brain become more agile and your body become more coordinated. But didn't I already play games with you many times when I was in the hospital room? And Lin thought back to when he was completely powerless and how he used his bandaged fingers to tap on the phone screen. Lu Qianhuan giggled at his words. I've already said that was pre-illness rehabilitation training. Now it's post-illness rehabilitation training. Saying this, she stuffed a phone into Lin's hand without another word. Lin. Chapter 182. One morning, Yao Xiao woke up early and tied her long hair into two cute ponytails. She looked at herself in the mirror without any makeup, but her face was still delicate and beautiful. She nodded in satisfaction and walked out of the room while humming a tune. Today, she was going to practice Shui Qianqians. I seem to have seen you somewhere. After spending some time with her idol, she began to understand her idol's taste. She successfully switched from My Motherland to some popular songs. Yao Xiao walked on the bluestone path with light steps. If she wanted to practice singing, it would be better to practice in a place with a more beautiful environment. Just like that, she arrived at her usual spot and found an unfamiliar figure. A monk with delicate features, dressed in a kasaya, was sitting quietly on a boulder. Huh, it's a monk. Yao Xiao tilted her head slightly. In her memory, there was no such thing as a monk in the school. Suddenly, she came to a realization and her eyes lit up. That's right, the Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers is about to begin. The Buddhist kingdom of the Western Paradise is also sending a representative. This monk should be the representative or a follower of the Buddhist kingdom. If that's the case, then he is the enemy of her idol. Yao Xiao's sense of responsibility as a fan was burning. She felt that it was time to help Lin scout out the enemy. The monk's eyes were tightly shut, as if he was thinking or meditating. I'll use a manual alarm first. Yao Xiao stroked her chin and made a decision. She walked to the monk's side and looked at the sky in the distance. She slowly began to sing. So happiness seems to be ignited wherever I go. Just like when you were in the class next to mine. People buried their unspeakable love in the soil. They stood by and watched as others tried their best to distance themselves. I heard your voice and hit a heart that didn't dare to see. The clear voice and the pleasant tune made the monk frown slightly. Yao Xiao's delicate face lit up when she saw this. She continued to sing. Hee, you sit and fight, I'll sing my song. Finally, the monk opened his eyes and looked at the girl in green. There was no anger on his face. Instead, he put his palms together and bowed slightly. Then, he walked away alone. Hey, monk, why are you leaving just like that? Yao Xiao couldn't help but say anxiously when she saw the monk leave without a second word. The monk looked at Yao Xiao in confusion and replied, Benefactor, I feel that meditating here will disturb your singing. That's why I chose to leave. Not at all, not at all. You can continue meditating here, Yao Xiao said with a smile. The corner of the monk's mouth twitched. What did she mean by she didn't disturb him? Did he really have to say that it was the female benefactor who disturbed his meditation that was why he chose to leave? Ah, by the way, may I know the name of this esteemed monk? Yao Xiao continued to make friendly conversation. The monk put his palms together and lowered his eyebrows. I don't deserve to be called an eminent monk. My Buddhist name is Qingji. Oh, hello, my name is Yao Xiao. With that, Yao Xiao generously extended her hand. Qingji stared blankly at the slender hand that was stretching toward him. His body also shrunk back a little as he said, I'm sorry, Master told me not to get close to women. Huh? Shaking hands means getting close to a woman? Yao Xiao's eyes widened in disbelief. A faint blush appeared on Qingji's face as he averted his gaze. It wasn't that he hadn't seen beautiful women before. It was just that he had never had physical contact with another woman before, so he instinctively wanted to refuse. He had cultivated in the Luli stone forest for 20 years and had a pure heart. However, it was precisely because his heart was like a blank piece of paper that it was easily tainted by worldly desires. Yao Xiao came to her senses after being refused. She clasped her hands behind her back and looked Qingji up and down with interest. Qingji felt a little uncomfortable being stared at like this. He bowed slightly and said, Benefactor, if there's nothing else, this humble monk will be taking his leave. Wait, can I ask you, who are the representatives of your Buddhist kingdom? Yao Xiao asked with a fawning expression. Qingji only wanted to leave as soon as possible, so he immediately replied, It's this humble monk, Junior Brother Qingyan, and Junior Brother Qing Xian. Yao Xiao sucked in a deep breath upon hearing this. She stared at the handsome monk in front of her and exclaimed in shock, Are you serious? Qingji put his palms together and said seriously, A monk doesn't lie. Then what's your cultivation base like? Yao Xiao felt that Qingji was easier to talk to and continued to ask. This. A troubled expression appeared on Qingji's face. Yao Xiao smiled. I'll let you go if you tell me. Qingji immediately replied, I'm half-step soul formation stage, and my two junior brothers are spirit nurturing final stage. Yao Xiao nodded in satisfaction. It looked like her school was going to be in the bag again during this Tao exchange conference. Benefactor, this humble monk will be taking his leave. Qingji was just about to leave when a crisp voice sounded from behind him. Hey, Qingji. Qingji, turn around. What is it? Don't keep calling me female benefactor. I have a name after all. For now on, just call me Miss Xiao. The woman in green smiled sweetly. Under the sunlight, her smile appeared especially beautiful and sweet. Miss Xiao? Qingji's heart stirred slightly as he looked at her. Yao Xiao nodded with a smile upon hearing Qingji's words. For some reason, Qingji's heart was no longer as calm as before. He became flustered and nodded at Yao Xiao. Then, he immediately withdrew his gaze and walked away in a disheveled manner. Yao Xiao covered her mouth and chuckled lightly upon seeing the monk's actions. This monk looks so dumb. He's definitely no match for my idol. She had originally wanted to tease the monk a little, but seeing how obedient he was, she couldn't bring herself to continue teasing him and could only allow him to leave. All right, I won't practice my singing today. I have to tell Senior Brother and Lin about this as soon as possible so that he can be mentally prepared. Yao Xiao was a little excited as she walked down the mountain. She imagined how Lin would look at her after hearing this news. The more she thought about it, the more excited she became. At the same time, a gigantic arc broke through the clouds and flew toward them from afar. The arc was light yellow in color and had a simple yet majestic feel to it. Wings of light that spanned over 1,000 feet flapped on either side of the arc. The entire arc was enveloped in a white glow and appeared ethereal and holy. From another direction, a silvery white disk also slowly flew toward them. Its outer shell was hard and had a metallic sheen to it. Lightning crackled around its underside. Those who didn't know better would think that it was some kind of mechanical object. However, it was actually a gigantic living creature. Within the disk, there were treants with roots all over their bodies, rock golems with flames emanating from their chests, and strange creatures that were plucking fruits from their bodies and savoring them with relish. They came from the creation realm and were prodigies of the Hall of Creation. These creatures looked up at the floating continent that had already appeared in their field of vision with excited expressions on their faces. The final winner of this Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers would definitely be them. Chapter 183. When Yao Xiao found and Lin's Zhuge Liang had just been blasted to death by number 7 Luban's nuclear bomb. The shockwave from the explosion had even destroyed the large crystal in the base. And Lin had lost the game again. While the two of them were having some free time, Yao Xiao told Lin everything she knew about the Buddhist kingdom's 3 representatives. Thank goodness there are no soul formation stage prodigies in the Buddhist kingdom, so I feel a little less pressured. And Lin heaved a sigh of relief and turned to Yao Xiao with a grateful expression. Sister Yao Xiao, you really did a great job this time. Yao Xiao's face instantly flushed with excitement after being praised by Lin. She was so excited that she almost suffocated. My God, God praised me. God praised me. Yao Xiao was intoxicated by her happiness, but Lu Qianhuan pursed her lips in disdain. I don't care if my opponent is a spirit-nurturing stage or a soul formation stage cultivator. As long as he competes in League of Valor, I'll definitely win. And Lin grimaced upon hearing this. You're living in a dream, Lu Qianhuan thought to herself. For a cheat like her, who changed her character to Long Out Yin every single time. If Lin could find a representative from another power to compete with her in this game, he would livestream himself eating sh*t. And Lin sighed with emotion for a moment before continuing to play League of Valor and League of Legends. Why did he play this game with Lu Qianhuan? It was a long story. He wasn't a masochist, but he discovered that playing this game really could train his thinking. Think about it. If your opponent is an enemy with extremely powerful natural resources, how can you mount a powerful counterattack when you're lacking in skills and techniques? This is a way to train your thinking to fight above your rank. In the game, you have to use your intelligent analysis and nimble hands to accumulate battle experience and train your thinking to fight above your rank. The valuable experience and thinking accumulated in the game can be transferred to the real world, allowing you to fight above your rank even in the cultivation world. Moreover, you can cultivate while playing the game and train your ability to multitask, which is also a great benefit. 2 hours are up. Here are the spirit stones. Lu Qianhuan realized that time was up, so she took out 1,000 spirit stones from her storage ring and handed them to Lin. Lin accepted the spirit stones happily. Spirit stones were also part of the reason. He had to pay for playing with her, Tycoon, and felt that if he spent his spirit stones so extravagantly, he would one day run out of spirit stones. Therefore, he also worked hard to create some income-generating projects. The Dao Exchange Conference of the 4 Powers was starting in 2 days. As the organizer of the event, the United University of Cultivation had already given all of its students a break. And Lin conservatively estimated that if he played games with Lu Qianhuan for the next 2 days and didn't have much rest, he would be able to earn around 20,000 spirit stones. Even for some large cultivation clans, this reward was considered a very large sum of money. However, senior sister Lu didn't even blink and took it out. And Lin even suspected that her family owned a spirit mine. Otherwise, how could they have so much money for her to squander? Lin, Qianhuan Lin, Tian Qianhuan, lands Lin's chi. However, Lu Qianhuan Lin didn't give him a direct answer. Instead, she said that for some reason, her relationship with her family wasn't very good. Apart from having a lot of money, she really didn't have anything else. So, Lin Jr. brother, you have to play games with me more often. And Lin didn't believe her bullish *T, and he couldn't be bothered to ask. He just wanted to be a sugar mommy. Just as he was playing the game, a loud explosion suddenly erupted in the distance. Is someone fighting? Isn't fighting prohibited in the university? And Lin looked toward the source of the explosion curiously and saw a black sword intent shooting into the sky. What's there to see? It's just a small fight. Let's continue playing. Lu Qianhuan's eyes lit up, and she killed Lin's character again while he was distracted. And Lin was still looking in the direction of the battle, and a familiar feeling welled up in his heart. Sister Lu, excuse me, I think there's someone I know over there. Saying this, he leaped onto his brick and flew toward the battle. Hey, this round isn't over yet. Lu Qianhuan stomped her foot angrily before flying behind Lin on her 6-feathered staff and yelling in a loud voice. Boom! The black sword intent slashed down, but it was dispersed by a rock golem whose chest was burning with flames. The power of the punch pierced through the sword intent and transformed into a gust of wind that crashed into the black-robed male, sending him flying through the air as he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Humph! You dare to challenge me with this level of power? Spirit nurturing initial stage is already this weak. The Enlin you speak of is about the same level as you." The rock golem looked disdainfully at the black-robed male who had collapsed to the ground. "Big brother, are you all right?" A delicate and pretty girl in a green dress ran over and helped the black-robed male up. These two people were none other than Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiao. Yao Mingxi clutched his chest and looked coldly at the rock golem before him. "Hee, and Lin is about the same level as me? For someone like you, he doesn't even need to lift a finger to turn you into dregs. Humph! Let's see how long you can keep your mouth shut." The rock golem howled as it pounced toward Yao Mingxi again. Yao Mingxi pushed Yao Xiao aside. Facing the rock golem's overwhelming aura, he didn't retreat even half a step. Instead, he raised his sword and charged toward the rock golem. "Big brother!" Yao Xiao's eyes were bloodshot as she yelled. She knew that Yao Mingxi was putting on a strong front. If they continued to fight like this, Yao Mingxi would definitely be severely wounded. However, Yao Mingxi still charged forward without any regard for his own safety. If it wasn't for the fact that the rock golem knew that Enlin was one of the representatives of the Celestial Court and had slandered Enlin in public, Yao Mingxi wouldn't have fought so desperately. The other spectating students also gritted their teeth as they glared at the rock golem. Their cultivation bases were far inferior to the rock golems. Otherwise, they would definitely have beaten it up as well. "Stop!" Enlin flew over on his brick and immediately yelled when he saw the scene below. He discovered that Yao Mingxi was already in a very poor state. If they continued to fight, Yao Mingxi would definitely be severely wounded. Grow, grow, grow. The black brick continued to expand until it came crashing down toward the rock golem with the weight of Mount Tai. The rock golem immediately threw a punch at the descending black brick. Boom! A terrifying shockwave swept out for over 100 feet. The ground seemed to be unable to withstand the force of the collision and began to cave in and crack open. The black brick didn't budge in the slightest, but the rock golem began to wail in agony. Its fist cracked as if it had struck something extremely hard. "Senior Enlin." Yao Mingxi shuddered at the sight of Enlin descending from the sky. He stared blankly at the figure in front of him. Yao Xiao covered her mouth in surprise and elation. All the spectating students also cheered at the sudden arrival of Enlin as they looked at him with scorching eyes. "Yao Mingxi, what's going on?" Enlin turned toward the exhausted man with a curious expression. Fighting without permission was against the school rules. Yao Mingxi should be aware of this. Yao Mingxi glared at the rock golem in anger. "After this idiot found out that you're a representative of the Celestial Court and that you're a spirit-nurturing initial stage cultivator, he said that the Celestial Court has no one else and chose a piece of trash. I just happened to hear this, so what's the point of wasting words? I'll just F***CK him up." And Lin grimaced. Fine, he finally understood. Sure enough, a foreign creature that didn't know the truth and a die-hard fan could cause intense sparks when they collided. This matter had arisen because of him, but it would be a bit difficult to resolve it. The rock golem pushed the black brick away and glared at Enlin. "You're that piece of trash, Enlin." Enlin, fine. He's already been scolded to this extent. Enlin wasn't a clay bodhisattva. He decided to take the blame. "Yeah, I'm your dad, Enlin." Enlin grinned and drew his evil slaying sword. Chapter 184. You've got guts. Let's see how long you can keep up your arrogance. The rock golem roared, and his body pounced toward Enlin with boundless might. It was renowned for its explosive temper in the Hall of Creation. Now that someone dared to provoke it, it was going to teach them what pain was. Lu Qianwan's eyes lit up when she saw the rock golem. Wow, what a perfect cosplay. Mo Fei, is that you? She couldn't help but want to unleash a combo attack on the rock golem. However, she was afraid that she would interrupt Enlin's flexing, so she resisted the urge. Although the rock golem was irascible and reckless, it was still a spirit-nurturing final stage cultivator. Its pouncing gave Lin a lot of pressure. And Lin didn't dare to underestimate the rock golem, so he used his divine inspection technique and wind spirit from the get-go. The rock golem's rock punch tore through the air. Rings of wind revolve around Lin's feet as he stepped lightly on the ground. He quickly turned his body, and the rock punch brushed past his shoulder. It was also at this moment that the evil-slaying sword became enveloped in white streams of wind. Like a pure white crescent moon, and Lin slashed toward the rock golem's arm. Boom! The seemingly indestructible rock arm collided with the evil-slaying sword, and energy rippled outwards. The spectating students stumbled back as if they had been struck by a heavy blow. Immediately afterward, the rock arm began to crack and shatter. Boiling red lava seeped out from the cracks on the arm. The rock golem howled and stumbled back. You can actually injure me. It couldn't believe that a spirit-nurturing initial stage student could unleash such a terrifying sword technique. And Lin shook his sword in disappointment. The rock golem's skin and flesh were a bit thicker than he had expected, but it wasn't a big deal. At least he managed to injure it. Seeing Lin injure the rock golem with a single strike, Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiu's eyes lit up with excitement. They felt like they had vented their frustrations, and they were extremely excited. The spectating students also began to cheer loudly. What Hall of Creation representative? It's all because of Godin's sword. Godin still held back. Otherwise, he could have finished him off with a single finger. The important thing is communication. If he used his full strength right from the start, no one would be able to play with God anymore. And Lin had a calm expression as he listened to the discussions around him. But the Stone Man was both shocked and furious. Again, the Stone Man roared and charged at Lin again. This time, red flames erupted from its body and enveloped its surroundings. Its movement speed increased explosively once again, and even its aura became even more majestic. And Lin frowned slightly. He did not expect the Stone Man to have no intention of stopping after suffering a loss. Stop! A loud shout came from the sky again. A white flying sword descended from the sky and stabbed into the ground. A powerful wind pressure was released from the sword, causing the Stone Man who was rushing over to freeze. Looking at this familiar scene, and Lin's eyelids twitched. He recalled the scene when he fought against Liu Debao not long after he entered the university. As expected, a man in a blue robe descended from the sky. Then, he flashed a token to everyone and said solemnly, "I'm a member of the university law enforcement team. Fighting on campus is an extremely vile act. Are the two of you the ones fighting?" The man in the blue robe turned toward Lin and the Stone Man as he spoke. His expression shifted when he saw the Stone Man, and his lips twitched when he saw Lin. F***CK. Why does it have to be him? This has nothing to do with senior student Lin. I was the one who started this battle, and senior student Lin was only fighting to protect me. Yao Mingxi yelled anxiously. He could not allow his idol to be implicated because of him. You can't capture Godin. This Stone Man was clearly the one who slandered him first. That's right, creatures like him should be taught a lesson. Young Xian from Class 1, 4th year. I recognize you. If you dare to capture God, and don't even think about pursuing Sister Qinwen. A beautiful girl yelled. The man in the blue robe by the name of Yang Xian felt a headache coming on as he looked at the enraged crowd. He knew that this would happen the moment he saw Lin. Sigh. If only Lin was still that backdoor entrant from before. Yang Xian sighed in his heart. On one hand, he owed Lin a favor, but on the other hand, he had to fulfill his duty. As a member of a university law enforcement team, he knew that he had to uphold his duty. After all, the fight between the two of them had already become a reality. As for the reason behind it, they could investigate further after they were arrested. Yang Xian turned toward Lin, as if to see what else he had to say. And Lin smiled faintly. This fight started because the Stone Man slandered me first, and I got into a fight because I didn't like it. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Yang Xian nodded and said in a clear voice, in accordance with the relevant regulations of the United University of Cultivation, the two of you are now under arrest. You will be sent to the campus detention room for 3 days. Why are you arresting Senior and Lin? If you want to arrest someone, then arrest me. I was the one who attacked first. Yao Mingxi yelled at Yang Xin with bloodshot eyes. Yang Xin turned a deaf ear to this as he silently cuffed Lin's hands. He knew that even if he arrested Yao Mingxi, Lin wouldn't be released, so it was better to feign ignorance and arrest one less person. Lin also understood this. Rather than arresting both him and Yao Mingxi at the same time, it was better to let him bear the blame alone. It was only 3 days anyways. Wah! Big brother, who would have thought that Senior and Lin would do this for you? Yao Xiu was so moved that tears streamed down her face. She was completely touched by her idol's selflessness. Yao Mingxi's body trembled as he stared blankly at Lin's departing figure. How could he not know the reason behind Lin's actions? At this moment, he could only clench his fists and bury this regret and gratitude deep in his heart. The surrounding students were extremely indignant as they watched Lin's departing figure, but they also understood his choice. Yang Xin, just you wait, I'm going to tell Sister Qin what happened. You're done for. Yang Xin, who was escorting the rock golem and Lin away, stumbled and almost fell to the ground upon hearing this. His voice was soon drowned out by other voices of support. As expected of my idol, Lin is too reliable. God, and we all support you. Good luck. You'll be a hero again when you come out. All of a sudden, all of the students applauded. The thunderous applause traveled into Lin's ears. Lin turned to the rock golem beside him with a mocking smile. See that? What do you mean by losing a competition and losing a friend? Roar! The rock golem let loose an enraged roar and glowered at Lin, and the flames in its chest burned even brighter. Lin shrugged triumphantly. He was very happy, not only because he had crushed the rock golem in all aspects, but also because he was going to be detained for 3 days. The Tao Exchange Conference was going to be held in 2 days, and he was going to be detained for 3 days. This meant that, if he had the chance, he wouldn't have to participate in that Bulsh Astros Tea Exchange Conference. Awesome. At the same time, on a tree not far from them, a golden-eyed owl spat out a mouthful of saliva. Tui, Hongdo, that idiot. He really doesn't rest no matter where he goes. Don't make a big deal out of this. I have to hurry and report this to the Lion King. The owl stared at the rock golem walking further and further away. It was both exasperated and furious. It shouldn't have let him out for a stroll in the first place. After strolling for a while, he ended up staying in the detention room. What the hell is this? With this thought, the owl sighed again and spread its wings before flying into the sky. Chapter 185. Within the detention room of the university, Lin received a very sad piece of news. Seeing as he and Hongdo were both representatives of different forces, they would only be detained for 2 days. After 2 days, he still had to participate in the Tao Exchange Conference. He sat on the ground dejectedly after receiving this news. He felt like he couldn't muster up any energy. Across from him, Hongdo cackled like a tractor. Cuckoo. When I get out of here, I'll be sure to teach you a lesson during the Tao Exchange Conference. Both of them were extremely powerful, so they were detained in different rooms. Otherwise, another battle would have ensued, and Lin couldn't be bothered with Hongdo's taunts. There was no point in arguing with him. After a while, Lin's fans brought him all types of food. He gorged himself in front of Hongdo, and Hongdo could only look on helplessly. There was no food provided during the 2 days of detention, so he wouldn't starve to death anyway. This braised chicken wing is so delicious. It's fragrant and crispy, and the meat is delicious. This green bar mountain beef is also quite good. It's chewy, and it's medium well. Lin spoke as he ate, and the aroma of his food wafted through the detention room. Hongdo's eyes glowed like torches as he stared at the food around Lin. He swallowed before speaking in a rumbling voice. Humph. Do you think you can provoke me like this? My heart is as hard as a rock. Lin shot a glance at Hongdo and chuckled coldly. Hard as a rock? You have the gall to say your heart is as hard as a rock. A scorching inferno erupted in Hongdo's chest upon hearing this. Who did you say would explode with a single spark? and Lin's lips twitched. F***CK. You don't have to be so cooperative. Are you a pig? Sigh. I can't believe I'm being detained because of an idiot like you. He shook his head and heaved a remorseful sigh. How dare you insult me? I'll beat you to death right now. Hong Do's eyes widened, and the rocks around his body began to crackle. Come and beat me then. If you don't, you're my son. If you do, you're my grandson. And Lin yawned as he looked at Hong Do with disdain. A thought suddenly occurred to him. If he fought again, he would be detained for a longer period of time. How dare you? Hong Do flared up upon being provoked like this. Scorching red flames burst forth from its body and melted the metal poles in its way as it made its way toward Lin like an ancient fiend celestial. Haha, looks like you're planning to be my grandson. And Lin laughed triumphantly. Hong Do flared up upon hearing this. Of his voice was a loud of a roar. Lotus karmic flames. And Lin didn't back down either. He summoned lightning with his left hand and golden light with his right. Mountain quaking lightning fist. This was a simplified version of a nuclear lightning fist. It was a self-created immortal technique that did not contain the darkness of origin concept. Even so, its power was still extremely terrifying. A muscular man patted Yang Xian's shoulder and consoled him. Student Yang Xian, as the captain of the Academy Enforcement Team, you handled this matter very well. A well-built man patted Yang Xian's shoulder and comforted. Student Yang Xian, as the captain of the campus law enforcement team, you've handled this matter well. A well-built man patted Yang Xian's shoulder. Student Yang Xian, as the captain of a university enforcement team, you handled this matter very well. No matter who you are, you have to follow the rules on campus. I'm sure Student Qinwen understands this, so you don't need to worry. If Qinwen could understand, then he wouldn't have changed their plan to go out and admire the moon tonight into a plan to buy chicken drumsticks and deliver supper to Lin. Let's go and see Lin and Hong Do. Li Yong smiled and said to Yang Xian, I hope they'll realize their mistakes and bury the hatchet and get along with each other peacefully. Yang Xian nodded. They're both representatives of the four powers, so they definitely know what to do. Perhaps they'll become good friends after fighting in the detention room. As the two of them spoke, they smiled knowingly and started walking side by side toward the white building. That was where the detention room was located. Boom! Red flames soared into the sky and blasted the roof of the white building away. Golden lightning pierced through the sky like a sharp sword, causing the earth to tremble and a deafening explosion to ring out. The two of them stared blankly at the mushroom cloud in front of them with their mouths agape. They were unable to come to their senses for a long time. Department head, I feel like there's a very familiar energy in that explosion, Yang Xian stammered. It's not one familiar energy, it's two familiar energies, Li Yong corrected. Yang Xian wiped the sweat from his forehead. Are they going to tear down the detention room? Boom! Another violent explosion erupted and cracks began to appear around the building. Yes, they're tearing down the building. Li Yong nodded with a solemn expression, and Lin sat on a chair with his face covered in soot. His hair had been singed into curls by the flames. He looked nervously at the middle-aged man in front of him, unsure of what to do. Beside Lin, the rock golem wiped away the red lava flowing from its body and also looked around with a shameful expression. Standing in front of them was Vice Principal Yuhua. Although there wasn't any anger on his face, there was an invisible pressure that made Lin and Hong Do feel uneasy. Come on, which one of you will speak first? Vice Principal Yuhua asked in a cold voice. Hong Do was the one who attacked first, and Lin immediately replied. Hong Do's chest tightened upon hearing this. You insulted him first. A gentleman uses his tongue, not his fists. Haven't you heard of that? And Lin replied with a strong sense of righteousness. You. Hong Do's chest exploded with flames again, and he was struck by the urge to beat the crap out of the male next to him. He wasn't good with words, and he always lost to Lin when it came to verbal sparring. Now that he couldn't attack, he was extremely frustrated. Vice Principal Yuhua massaged his brows. He felt like if he kept the two of them together, they might start fighting again, so he decided to separate them. Hong Do, return to your faction first. As for compensation, I'll discuss it with the Lion King, Yuhua instructed. Yes. Hongdo nodded. And Lin, you go back as well, Yuhua continued. And Lin's eyes widened in disbelief. You're letting us go just like that? Aren't you going to lock us up for a few more days? Yuhua glared at him. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. If you cause trouble for me again, I'll teach you a lesson. All of a sudden, Lin felt a suffocating aura wash over him. He immediately nodded like a chicken pecking at grains, and he had no intention of disobeying. Remember this, if you continue to fight, I'll immediately disqualify you from the Tao discussion. Yuhua warned the two of them again. Hongdo nodded with a solemn expression, and Lin's eyes lit up, and he looked at Hongdo with a thoughtful expression. And you'll be fined 100,000 spirit stones. Yuhua added. The light in Lin's eyes dimmed. Chapter 186. In any case, Lin went back in a daze. He had fought 2 battles with Hongdo and was completely exhausted. He didn't have the energy to continue being Lu Qianhuan's mistress, so he went back to his room and slept. The next day, a group of people strolled around the campus, attracting countless gazes and creating quite a stir. All of them had smooth and delicate skin, blue eyes, long and pointy ears, and extremely handsome features. They even had beautiful white wings on their backs. Most importantly, they could even glow. A faint holy glow emanated from their bodies, making them appear as if they were divine messengers blessed by the heavens. Countless students on the campus of Xiaoxian United University turned their attention to this group of people as they discussed spiritedly among themselves. Wow, look at those guys, they're so handsome. The women are also beautiful. I feel like they're from an idol group. I've heard that the Light Wing clan of the Garden of Eden is blessed by the heavens. Looks like it's true. Just their looks alone are enough to make people envious. In contrast to the awe of the passers-by, these guests from the holy paradise had gentle expressions and behaved naturally. They only maintained a certain distance from others and didn't act arrogant to the point of rejecting others. Within a small building in the White Wing School District. Big brother, and there's something good to see, woof. Dabai burst through the window and spoke excitedly. It's so early in the morning. Can you be a bit more gentle? And Lin complained with sleepy eyes. Big brother, you're wrong. It's already noon. Dabai slapped Lin's face with his paw. And Lin was just about to say that he could sleep for the entire day if Dabai didn't come to disturb him, but Huge Paw immediately flew toward him. Slap, 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 and Lin was instantly enraged and jumped up. What's going on? A group of birdmen came. They're all beautiful, with big breasts and perky butts. Dabai gave him a knowing smile. And Lin, thus he leaped onto Dabai's back and soared into the sky. A dozen or so members of the Light Wing clan were walking along the campus with relaxed expressions on their faces. However, they were walking in a fixed direction. August, do you think that Lin is really in the White Wing School District? A woman in a white robe asked in a clear and ethereal voice. The handsome man who was walking at the front nodded. He took out a piece of white paper. On it was Lin's detailed address and picture. If he is not at home, we will wait at his door. We will definitely be able to meet him today. Putting everything else aside, this Lin is quite pleasing to the eye. The woman looked at the photo on the paper and smiled. The students on the side of the road couldn't take their eyes off the girl when they saw her beautiful and pure smile. Surely, restrain yourself when the time comes. Don't be a love-struck fool, August said with an unchanged expression. Shirley pursed her lips and didn't say anything. She thought to herself, isn't this August a little too controlling? Even when he's looking at a man, he has to restrict him. Is there any law in the world? In the air, Dabai had an excited expression. Follow the scent. They are right in front of us, woof. And Lin grimaced. Should he praise Dabai for his sharp nose? Immediately afterward, they arrived above the group of Light Wing clan members and began to survey them. This is the Light Wing clan? My God, they really are glowing. And Lin exclaimed in surprise. That's not the point. The point is, don't you realize that their figures are all very good? Woof? Dabai stuck out his tongue as he stared down at the group of women below him with his large, watery eyes. And Lin looked down at the women below him. Some of them were wearing light, white dresses, revealing their snow-white shoulders and sexy collarbones. Some of them were a little loose, and one could even see their snow-white breasts rippling violently. The man and dog both inhaled deeply and followed the light-winged clan members in the air. August, the person riding the dog above us, seems to be following us, Shirley suddenly said. August nodded. I noticed that a long time ago. However, this is the territory of the Celestial Court, so they probably wouldn't dare to do anything rash. A faint blush appeared on Shirley's face, and she said in a soft voice, but I can't shake the feeling that they're already acting rashly. Their gazes are acting rashly, huh? August faltered for a moment before coming back to his senses and looking up. As soon as their gazes met, Dubai's face immediately twisted as he looked up at the clouds in the sky. And Lin also instantly withdrew his gaze and pretended to look around at the scenery in a natural manner. August, when the man and dog turned their gazes back down, and Lin suddenly felt that something was amiss. He asked curiously, Dubai, why do I feel like someone's missing? Dubai's eyes widened, and he stuck out his tongue in excitement. No one's missing. Beautiful women with big breasts and perky buttocks. Not a single one is missing. Oh, and Lin scratched his head. A terrifying aura suddenly erupted from behind him. Dubai's body trembled, and he and Lin both turned around at the same time. They saw a man with a pair of white wings spread open, and a dazzling light erupted from his body. He clasped his hands together in the air, and a white light swirled like a vortex as an extremely terrifying energy converged. And Lin and Dubai were both extremely shocked upon seeing this. They knew that they were about to be screwed. Big Brother Angel, this is a misunderstanding. And Lin yelled in an attempt to salvage the situation. The man chuckled coldly. Divine punishment. White spinning heavenly pillar. The white vortex dissipated, and immediately afterward, a pillar of light descended from the sky with a boundless might. Boom! The powerful force collided head-on with Lin and Dubai. The pure energy contained within the pillar of light caused them to fall to the ground, and the ground beneath them even cracked and shattered. Woof, so scary. Dubai crawled up from the rubble and shook his body. And Lin also felt like his entire body was about to fall apart. He crawled up from the ground and dusted himself off before unleashing a light breeze technique to blow away the dust around him. After blowing away the dust, he found that he had been surrounded. All of the Light Wing Clan cultivators were gathered around him. All of their expressions were frosty, and some of them had even pulled out their weapons. Do you have anything else to say? A man walked out with a cold expression. Even though everyone knew what was going on, they still decided to give them a chance to repent. This is all a misunderstanding. Listen to my explanation. And Lin was surrounded by many powerful beings, but he still forced himself to calm down and speak in a calm voice. Young Xian, what's there to say? We're just carrying out official duties, so tell them not to interfere, woof. Dubai's expression became ferocious. Young Xian? And Lin faltered for a moment before coming to his senses, and he immediately praised Dubai. He clasped his hands behind his back as he spoke in a calm voice. My name is Yang Xian, and I'm the captain of the university enforcement team. Seeing the expressions of some of the Light Wing Clan cultivators change, he continued, This dog is my steed. I heard that all of you are going to walk around the university, and I was afraid that something might happen, so I specially patrolled the area. Please don't take offense. If I disturb any of you, I'll leave right away. Saying this, he mounted onto Dubai and waved at the Light Wing Clan cultivators in a friendly manner before preparing to leave. It had to be said that Lin's excuse was extremely perfect. Even though everyone had their suspicions, his identity as the captain of the enforcement team made it difficult for them to question him. Shirley blinked her bright eyes as she stared at Lin. He looked very familiar. August, who had just returned from attacking Lin, took out the piece of paper and compared it repeatedly. Finally, he couldn't help but ask, Lin? Lin and Dubai both shuddered. You're Lin, right? August asked excitedly as he stood in front of them. And Lin's lips twitched as he looked at August. Why do you say I'm Lin? August raised the piece of paper vertically and faced it toward Lin. Look, it's exactly the same. Lin and Dabai shuddered again upon seeing the photo. It was exactly the same. This was F** King Awkward. Chapter 187. The scene was abnormally silent, and the atmosphere was extremely awkward. Lin and Dabai were both extremely awkward. What else could they say when the exact same photo was placed before them? Dabai, what do we do? Lin transmitted his voice anxiously. Big brother and I don't know. A harmless expression appeared on Dabai's face as he said this. He looked around with a pitiful expression and continued to transmit his voice. But I'm not in any danger right now. You should be the one I'm most worried about. Have you ever seen a hero who carries out justice on behalf of the heavens? When he kills a horse-riding pervert, he kills the horse as well. And Lin's mouth gaped open, and he felt as if he had fallen into a glacier. Dabai's words made so much sense that he couldn't refute them, which meant he was the one in the most danger right now. Right, you're in Lin, right? August pointed at the photo as he looked at Lin. Even though it was a question, the meaning behind his words was clear. Lin looked around at the powerful angels around him and smiled apologetically. Yes, I am Lin. Actually, I have my reasons for doing this. He was still trying to think of a way to save himself when August suddenly charged toward him. Lin was startled upon seeing this. F***CK. He's going to beat me up before I even finished explaining? He was just about to say, "Don't hit me." August gripped both of his hands tightly. That's great. What a coincidence. We were just about to go look for you, August said excitedly. Huh? Lin blinked, unable to come to his senses. He looked around to find that all the Light Wing clan members' expressions had softened, and some of them were even smiling at him. What was going on? What a coincidence. Say, did you need something from me? Lin forced himself to remain calm as a calm smile appeared on his face. He just had to change the subject and forget everything that had just happened. August bowed respectfully toward Lin. I am August of the Light Wing clan. I received news that Lin was the one who killed the Dark Knight Monarch of the Dark Wing clan. So we came here to express our gratitude. Dark Knight Monarch? Hearing this, Lin calmed himself down. He had a rough idea of what was going on and said, "You don't have to thank me. She and I were enemies back then." A warm smile appeared on August's face. The Dark Wing tribe and the Light Wing tribe are sworn enemies to begin with. Mr. Lin, you killed the Dark Knight Monarch, one of the Dark Wing tribe's 12 monarchs. To the Light Wing tribe, you've indirectly helped us eliminate a powerful enemy. Therefore, thanks and gifts are necessary. I hope fellow Taoist and Lin won't refuse. And Lin's heart skipped a beat. There's even a gift of thanks? Then, it would be impolite to refuse. An awkward expression appeared on his face. August, you're too kind. Shirley? August called out. A beautiful woman responded and came over. Her exquisite figure paired with her angelic features caused Lin and Dabai's eyes to light up. Shirley's eyes also lit up when she saw Lin, and she stared intently at him. 7 points for looks, full point for power, and full points for heroic charisma. Huh? And Lin was rooted to the spot by Shirley's words. August's expression darkened, and he said angrily, Shirley, don't forget what we came here for. Oh. Shirley came to her senses and took out a blue egg that was half the height of a grown man from her storage ring. This egg is called an Ice Flame Fairy Dragon Egg. It's an egg laid by a high-ranked dragon of my tribe. After it hatches, it will give birth to a male fairy dragon with extremely high aptitude. It's a natural beast pet. And Lin's heart almost jumped out of his chest upon hearing this. A high-ranked fairy dragon, just a dragon egg, was already extremely valuable. A high-ranked dragon egg would be priceless. Come, Mr. Lin, this is a small token of appreciation for my tribe. It's a gift for you. Shirley handed the dragon egg to Lin with a smile. And Lin accepted the dragon egg excitedly. Thank you. How do I hatch this egg? Shirley smiled. You just need to place it under the sun every day and place a drop of blood essence on the top of the egg for it to absorb. Once the dragon egg hatches, it will automatically recognize you as its master. And Lin nodded and held the dragon egg carefully, afraid that it would bump into something. Why didn't he put the egg into his storage ring? It was because he wanted to hold it longer. In the end, and Lin exchanged a few more words with August and the others before waving goodbye. After delivering Lin's present, August and the others continued to tour around the campus. Meanwhile, Lin rode Dabai back to his residence in high spirits. In the sky, Dabai sighed with emotion. We're really blessed today. Not only do we drive a lot of cars, we even earn an egg. Lin stroked the dragon egg with a smug expression. This is all thanks to your big brother An's brilliance. Within a small building in a White Wing School district, Xiao Hong, Dabai, and Xiao Cho were all gathered together as they carefully examined the fairy dragon egg. Wow, once this egg hatches, it'll definitely be bigger than me. Xiao Hong wagged her bright red head as she spoke in a sweet voice. Lin was a little speechless as he looked at Xiao Hong. Isn't that obvious? With your size, even a fertilized egg would be bigger than you. We're about to welcome a new member. What name should we give little brother? Woof. Dabai was a little excited. Xiao Chao's bulb-like eyes also lit up upon hearing Lin's words. However, his focus was on one thing. I'm going to be the big brother. I have a little brother. Lin cleared his throat. I have an idea about the name. Xiao Hong face-bombed upon hearing this. Xiao Cho had a look of anticipation on his face. Dabai scratched his head. Since its egg is blue, why don't we call it Xiao Lan? Xiao Hong, Xiao Cho, Dabai, as the eldest disciple, Xiao Hong decisively stood up for Xiao Chao's rights. She was no longer the weak and easily bullied Xiao Hong of the past. She couldn't let the tragedy of Xiao Cho repeat itself. Xiao Hong sneered at Lin. Hee, master, you named it according to its color again? Xiao Chao's fur is yellow, so why don't you just call him Xiao Huang? That way, Xiao Hong, Xiao Huang, Xiao Lan, and Dabai would all be color-based names. How nice would that sound? The mockery in her words was extremely obvious. She was dissatisfied with Lin's weird sense of aesthetics. Unexpectedly, Lin's eyes lit up upon hearing this. Huh, that's a good idea. Why didn't I think of that? Xiao Cho, you can change your name to Xiao Huang from now on. He pointed at Xiao Cho with excitement. Lin came to a sudden realization. From now on, he would name his beast pets after their colors. Red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. These 7 beast pets would be the 7 bottle-gourd brothers. Xiao Chao's vision darkened upon hearing this. Dabai stumbled back in retreat, and Xiao Hong's expression was one of despair. It was as if it had withered after not photosynthesizing for a day. Time passed by quickly, and before he knew it, it was already noon. A member of the Lightwing clan came to Lin's residence to invite Lin to attend their luncheon. Lin had already accepted the dragon egg, so he wouldn't be too embarrassed to go. He thought about it for a moment before placing the spirit dragon egg on the windowsill to bask in the sun. He then brought Xiao Hong, Xiao Cho, and Dabai to the luncheon. The more people there were, the more imposing it would be. What if there wasn't anyone? Then he would use beasts instead. Thus, 1 human, 1 flower, and 2 beasts hurried to the luncheon. Time passed by slowly. An adorable girl in a green dress and a handsome man in a black robe appeared in front of Lin's house. Senior Lin has rested for the entire day. I don't think we'll be bothering him today, right? Yao Mingxi was a little uneasy. Brother, when did you become so shy? If you love me, just say it out loud. He finally got out of the detention room, so we have to give him our greatest love. Yao Xiao giggled. Yao Mingxi's face was a little red as he knocked on the door uneasily. After knocking for a long time, Yao Mingxi was a little disappointed. Is there no one? Yao Xiao's eyes lit up. Brother, look, there's an egg. This egg looks pretty good. I can tell it's not an ordinary egg. Brother, could this be Senior Lin's dinner tonight? It's very likely. After all, Godin had just returned, and now he suddenly has an egg. This egg was probably used to nourish his body after he sustained some injuries from his battle with Hongdo. Haha, I'm very good at cooking. Brother, let's give Senior Lin another surprise. All right, then it's all up to little Xiao. Chapter 188. Within the quaint ark, a series of sumptuous dishes were being served. The dishes of the Light Wing clan all contained extremely high amounts of energy, and each dish was a complete tonic. Lin and the others ate quite a bit, and they soon felt their bodies heat up. At the same time, a sense of fullness spread throughout their bodies. Come, Shirley, let me toast to you. Thank you for the ice flame, fairy dragon egg. And Lin raised his cup with a grateful expression. Shirley pursed her lips into a smile and raised her cup to drink with Lin. Her beautiful eyes wandered over Lin's body, and no one knew what she was thinking. August walked over and warned in a low voice, Shirley, stop being so love-struck. We still have a Tao exchange tomorrow. Yes, yes, yes. You're so annoying. Shirley pursed her lips and continued. You can't beat Lin anyways, so what's the point of being so nervous? August and Lin and Dubai had quite a good time during this luncheon. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, it was almost evening. After that, Lin left the Ark and strolled along the campus path with Dubai. Big brother, do you think we should send little brother to the mythological beast sect to cultivate for a period of time after he's born? Dubai suddenly asked, and Lin was slightly taken aback. He had never thought about this before. The ice flame fairy dragon had just been born, and even though it could recognize Lin as its master, Lin was at a loss as to how to nurture it. We can consider sending it to a beast cub park. And Lin nodded in agreement after thinking for a moment. Woof, let me introduce a teacher to little brother. Dubai was excited again. He could already envision the scene of little brother growing up healthy and strong under his guidance. Since little brother is an ice flame fairy dragon, its element should be related to fire. I also have quite a bit of insight into fire, so perhaps I can teach it some knowledge related to fire. The clown's soul as a teacher was already burning. He could already imagine his fourth brother's future under his guidance. Then I'll be responsible for helping fourth brother learn how to photosynthesize. She could already envision her fourth brother growing taller and taller under the sunlight. And Lin, it's still too early to talk about this. Fourth brother still has a long way to go. Let's go back and see him first. And Lin felt that it was time to go back after walking for a long time. Dubai and the others also nodded their heads, the love and concern of an elder brother and elder sister arising spontaneously. Just like that, they walked to the door of the residence. It smells so good. Dubai sniffed the air with his nose, and saliva began to drip from his mouth. Why does it seem like it came from my pavilion? And Lin blinked his eyes in surprise. Xiao Chao's light bulb-like eyes lit up. Big brother, your super fans must have prepared a sumptuous dinner for you inside, right? And Lin came to his senses. Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiao could indeed give him such a pleasant surprise. With this in mind, he couldn't help but smile. They're really thoughtful. He was quite happy that his fans would occasionally do such heartwarming things. Right at this moment, Little Red's bright red head poked out. Where's little brother? Little Red's words brought everyone back to their senses, and they all turned to look at the windowsill. There was no one there. Where's little brother? And Lin, Dubai, and Xiao Cho all fell silent. They were even starting to feel a little afraid to breathe. Dubai walked over to the door and accidentally breathed in. It smells like eggs, and Lin's hands froze on the doorknob, and his entire body began to tremble. The door opened. A rich fragrance wafted toward them, intoxicating them. However, everyone found it a little difficult to breathe. Surprise! Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiao cheered in unison, welcoming the return of their idol with smiles on their faces. Senior and Lin, we've prepared a delicious dinner for you. Come have a taste. Yao Xiao hooked her arms around Lin's and pulled him to the front of the table. Then she excitedly said, "This is egg white lotus root. This is egg glazed lobster. This is egg fried rice. This is golden egg yolk frisbee. This is Senior and Lin. These are all egg feast dishes made by Xiao and myself. What do you think?" Yao Xiao's adorable face was filled with anticipation, and she looked as if she was waiting for Lin to praise her. And Lin's face was flushed as he looked at the sumptuous dishes on the table, and he was almost out of breath. Yao Mingxi thought that Lin was too touched, so he affectionately patted him on the shoulder. "It's just a little something from us siblings, don't worry. If you like it, we'll make it for you every day. Can I ask, where did all these eggs come from?" And Lin's lips trembled as he pointed at the egg dishes on the table. "Oh, these eggs are made from the huge egg you left on the windowsill, Senior and Lin. Good eggs are nourishing. but they can only be fully utilized through proper cooking. Yao Xiao was brimming with pride as she spoke. She pointed at a corner of the room. Wait, this thing can also be used to make soup to supplement calcium. And Lin, Dabai, Xiao Chou, and Xiao Hong all looked toward the direction Yao Xiao was pointing at. And Lin's vision darkened, and he almost fainted. He felt as if his heart had split open. Dabai and Xiao Chou both shuddered as tears welled up in their eyes. Xiao Hong's vibrant red petals were dripping with dew as she sobbed softly. My fourth brother. Xiao Chou knelt to the ground with lifeless eyes. Fourth brother, you died such a tragic death. Dabai was about to go crazy as he wailed in anguish. And Lin trembled as he walked toward the corner of the room. He knelt down in front of the eggshell. The huge blue eggshell had already been reduced to pieces. He picked up a piece of the eggshell with trembling fingers. Xiaolan, it's all my fault. It's all my fault. It's all my fault that I didn't hide you properly. The atmosphere in the room suddenly became extremely heavy. Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiao were also given a fright by everyone's reactions. An extremely terrifying thought welled up in Yao Mingxi's mind. He asked nervously, the fourth brother you're referring to is... And Lin held the shattered eggshell in his hands as he looked at Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiao. This is the remains of our fourth brother. I wanted to incubate him, but you... Boom! Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiao were rooted to the spot as if they had been struck by lightning. They weren't idiots. Lin's reaction and Lin's words allowed them to completely understand what had happened. My God, what did I do? Yao Xiao's body trembled violently as she stared at her own hands. She was the one who tore apart Lin's fourth brother. She even steamed, fried, roasted, and braised it. In the end, she even wanted to make soup out of his fourth brother's shell. Yao Mingxi's eyes were completely blank as his mind went blank. They killed their idol's fourth brother? They even cooked it for their idol to eat? Aha! Tears streamed down Yao Mingxi's face, and he was on the verge of a mental breakdown. He had already realized just how heinous of a sin he had committed. Senior and Lin, don't blame my sister. I was too stupid. Let me take responsibility for all of this. Yao Mingxi pulled out his long sword and prepared to slash it across his own neck in order to atone for his sins with death. Big brother, don't. Yao Xiao wailed in grief. Whoosh! A burst of energy struck Yao Mingxi's long sword and knocked it aside. Senior and Lin, Yao Mingxi's voice trembled as he looked at Lin. The one who had intervened was none other than the grief-stricken Lin. And Lin didn't say anything. Instead, he silently picked up all of the eggshells and placed them on the kitchen counter. He looked at Yao Xiao and said in an indifferent voice, Aren't you going to make soup? Hurry up and come over. This soup might need to be boiled for a long time before the taste comes out. Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiao were dumbstruck as they stood rooted to the spot. Xiao Hong's body trembled slightly. Dabai's legs gave out from under him, and Xiao Chao's eyes widened in shock as they stared at Lin. Had Big Brother then gone insane? Chapter 189. Lin, Yao Xiao asked in a hesitant manner. Yes, I'm not crazy. Hurry up and cook this egg into soup. Didn't you say it's good for calcium? Don't waste it. Lin nodded with an indifferent expression. Is he really not crazy? Dabai and Xiao Chao's mouths twitched. Yao Xiao tiptoed toward Lin like a frightened and guilty kitten. She looked at Lin with a hint of fear in her eyes. She stretched out her hands with an uncertain expression. Are you really going to use this to cook soup? Lin nodded with an earnest expression before placing the eggshell in front of her. Yao Xiao, clang, clang, clang. Crack, crack, crack. The kitchen became busy again. Soon, Yao Xiao lit the fire and began to cook her little brother's eggshell. Everyone sat around the table. All of the dishes on the table exuded an alluring aroma. On one hand, Yao Xiao's cooking skills were very good. On the other hand, their little brother's egg yolk and white were extremely fragrant. Dabai emerged from his sorrowful state and stared intently at the various delicacies on the table. He had an extremely sensitive sense of smell and couldn't help but gulp after coming into contact with all of these delicious dishes. Everyone, hurry up and eat. Don't waste little brother's sacrifice. Lin raised his chopsticks and spoke first. Xiao Chou, Xiao Hong, Dabai, the Yao siblings, and Lin ignored everyone's expressions. He had already thought things through. Rather than being depressed and unable to recover, it was better to open his heart and accept everything Little Blue had to offer. He picked up the egg yolk lobster first. The lobster's shell had already been peeled off by Yao Xiao. The white and tender lobster meat was covered in a layer of fragrant egg yolk. It looked golden and delicious, and an extremely alluring aroma wafted through the air. And Lin placed the lobster meat into his mouth. The delicious flavors stimulated his taste buds and made his entire body tremble. He chewed carefully and mumbled, "Delicious." Dabai also picked up his chopsticks after seeing Lin begin to eat. He picked up the egg yolk roll closest to him. To be honest, he couldn't hold it in any longer, but a sense of sorrow and guilt kept suppressing him, preventing him from making any moves. When the egg yolk roll entered his mouth, he couldn't describe how delicious it was. He only knew that it was really too delicious. Xiao Hong transformed into her stunning human form and exchanged a glance with the clown before picking up her chopsticks as well. If their master wanted to eat, they had to accompany him. When the egg-white lotus root entered his mouth, it was fragrant, crispy, and smooth, making him unable to stop eating. Yao Xiao wiped her reddened eyes, bit her lower lip, picked up her chopsticks, and picked up the food on the table with trembling hands. Seeing this, Yao Mingxi also relaxed and started eating as well. Not only was the fairy dragon egg extremely delicious, but the energy it contained was no less than a low-grade celestial fruit. It could be said that while enjoying the delicacy, one's cultivation would also increase to a certain extent. And Lin sniffled as tears flowed down his cheeks. "Xiaolon, I'll never forget you. Your taste, your touch, and the energy flowing through my body are all my motivation." Dabai woofed upon hearing Lin's words, but his chopsticks didn't stop moving. "Little brother, I hope that there's no killing and buying in the other world." The clown and Lil Red were also crying, their tears dripping down their cheeks. "I finally got to be the third brother. Who would have thought?" "Sigh, rest in peace, little brother." The clown picked up a golden egg yolk frisbee with his chopsticks and put it into his mouth as he wept. Because the fairy dragon of ice flame was of the fire element, not only did the clown's cultivation rank increase after eating it, even his black flame stats also improved slightly. Xiao Hong placed a piece of egg-white snow lotus root into her mouth, upon which she was struck by an extremely refreshing aroma. She felt as if she had arrived at an immortal realm, and her entire body began to feel extremely comfortable. "Wah! There's no one who can continue my photosynthesis, wah!" She wept as she chewed on the egg-white lotus root. Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiao also wept as they ate. They were extremely remorseful for having done such a terrible thing. This banquet was extremely strange. The atmosphere was extremely sad, and almost everyone was shedding tears. However, their chopsticks never stopped moving. Instead, they continued to reminisce about the past as they ate the dishes on the table. This was because the dishes on the table, they were simply too delicious. They couldn't stop eating. After finishing the plate of thousand-layer egg and pork ribs, Dabai raised the plate with his paw and licked the leftovers off the plate with his tongue. "These are all precious treasures left to us by our younger brother. We can't waste them, woof," he said eloquently. Everyone, just like that, everyone finished all the dishes on the table in a miserable atmosphere. Even the bucket of egg-fried rice was cleaned up. Yao Xiao brought out the soup made by little brother Yu's eggshell. Everyone drank the delicious soup, and tears began to flow uncontrollably from their eyes. "Yao Xiao, Yao Mingxi, you two don't need to blame yourselves. The main reason is that I didn't take care of little brother's safety." And Lin drank a mouthful of the delicious soup and felt his entire body full of vitality. "Now that we've eaten little brother will live with us." Everyone's spirits rose upon hearing this, and they also echoed, "Little brother will live with us." And Lin raised his bowl and shouted, "Let's drink this bowl of little brother's soup." Everyone looked at each other and raised their bowls. "Cheers!" Gulp, gulp. After finishing the soup, Dabai also chewed the eggshell at the bottom of the pot and swallowed it. It was a calcium supplement. Soon, the last delicacy left behind by little brother was completely devoured by Lin and the others. Burp, Dabai accidentally burped. Then, he blushed and looked away. In reality, everyone had to admit that little brother was really delicious. The dinner was quite full, and everyone sat down on their chairs and sighed. Even though Lin said he didn't mind, Yao Mingxi and Yao Xiu still felt extremely guilty and wanted to cry again. They had never seen such a tolerant and considerate person. To have such an idol was truly a blessing of 3 lifetimes. On the contrary, Dabai, Xiao Qiu, and Little Red had already recovered. Although they were still sad, they had accepted reality. And Lin rubbed his stomach and said with a solemn expression, "I hope everyone will remember this day. Today is the anniversary of Little Land's death. Don't forget it." Everyone nodded in unison. This night was destined to be unforgettable. Whether it was the heart-wrenching memories or the endless aftertaste of the delicious food, they would never forget what happened today. On this night, the galaxy shone brightly and the moon hung high in the sky. A faint fragrance still lingered in the small pavilion, but some things had already disappeared. As everyone reminisced, something that belonged to the Western Dragon tribe slowly flew into the sky from the pavilion and landed somewhere.